Scarlett is a wicked heiress. She never expected her plot to backfire so terribly. Following the last events, Ethan took Rachel out for a feast. At the table, Rachel looked at her sweet husband. He was supposedly just a junior clerk. He married her when she was at her absolute lowest, yet her heart felt suddenly heavy. "If you found out I wasn't perfect," she tested, "would you still love me?" Ethan looked into her eyes with pure devotion. He squeezed her hand to give her strength. Then, he dropped to one knee for a delayed, lavish proposal. But this fairy tale was ripped apart by Scarlett. That night, Rachel stared at her massive diamond ring. Scarlett's vicious words echoed in her mind. "You are just damaged goods," Scarlett had mocked. "You are not worthy of Ascent Group's billionaire chairman." Drowning in self-doubt, Rachel walked to the living room. She overheard Ethan arguing fiercely with his mother, Victoria. "I don't care who is slandering Rachel," Ethan yelled into his phone. "She is the only woman I will ever love." Hearing this, Rachel broke down completely. She thought his high-end society mother knew everything about her past. To protect Ethan and save his dignity, she packed her bags in the middle of the night. She vanished from their warm home in tears. Rachel's disappearance drove Ethan insane. He ordered his team to flip the city upside down to find her, but bad luck never comes alone. 2 days later, his bitter mother arrived, escorted by Scarlett. They broke into Ethan's small apartment without warning. Victoria looked at the tiny space with utter disgust. She complained that a random poor girl had brainwashed her son. Scarlett intentionally found a piece of lingerie in the bedroom. She tossed it at Ethan to humiliate him. Victoria joined in, mocking Rachel's lack of manners. "She is just an uneducated vagrant," they jeered. Hearing them trash the woman he loved, Ethan snapped. "We picked out every piece of furniture here together," he shot back. "I married a soulmate to spend my life with, not a vain trophy who lives for toxic drama like Scarlett." His fierce defense drove Scarlett mad with rage. She immediately dropped her ultimate trump card. She framed Rachel with a massive corporate crime. "Rachel is a corporate spy for our rivals," Scarlett shrieked. She didn't disappear, she fled from justice. To prove his wife's innocence, Ethan checked his nightstand drawer. The secret compartment was wide open. His face froze. The highly classified bidding documents were gone. Scarlett and Victoria smirked, demanding the police be called. Faced with this setup, Ethan took a deep breath. He did something that shocked everyone. He shielded Rachel's things with tears in his eyes. "Even if Rachel took them, she must have a reason," he declared. "Even if the world doubts her, I trust my wife 100%. His deep love shattered Scarlett's evil trap. Just as Ethan screamed at Scarlett to get the hell out, a sharp voice echoed from the bedroom door. "That won't be necessary." Everyone spun around in pure shock. Rachel was standing there in a sharp business suit. The fear and weakness were completely gone from her eyes. They were replaced by pure, freezing resolve. In her hands, she clutched the heavy file folder. The brave girl was back with nuclear-grade evidence. Look closely at this fierce man. He is Ethan, the secret billionaire tycoon. He waved the folder, ripping off Scarlett's mask. Inside was the multi-billion-dollar project bid. Scarlett's sinister father had tried to steal Ascent's market for years. Stealing this would win them billions and ruin Ethan's marriage. It was a perfect 2 for 1 plot. Ethan's gaze turned like ice, demanding answers from Scarlett. The plotting heiress panicked, trying to flirt her way out. "My dad respects you so much," she whined. "He wants you as a son, in law, he'd never betray you." But Ethan wasn't buying her trash. "If you framed Rachel, I don't care who your daddy is," he snapped. Just then, a crucial call came from his assistant. Rachel had actually played along with their trap. She saved the secrets and secured the multi-billion profit. Victoria's toxic attitude flipped instantly. She praised Rachel for being a brilliant daughter in-law. Scarlett gnashed her teeth in bitter jealousy. She vowed to expose Rachel's past trauma if she didn't back down, but Rachel was no longer a pushover. She stepped up to set the record straight. "I moved the files because Scarlett knew the exact hiding spot," she told Victoria. "That meant we had a mole in the house. To catch the rat, I had to secure the files first. Then came the real bomb. 3 days ago, Scarlett blackmailed me to steal this," Rachel revealed. "She wanted to frame me and throw me in prison. Just so she could slide into the CEO's wife position." Faced with Scarlett's weak denials, Rachel stood proud. "Yes, I have the files," she admitted. Then she took a deep breath, tears streaming down her face. She uncovered the traumatic scar she she hid for 3 years. 3 years ago, I was drugged and assaulted at a cruise party. That night became a nightmare I wake up screaming from. Hearing her painful confession, Ethan felt zero disgust. His heart broke, and tears flooded his eyes. He pulled the scarred girl into a crushing hug. He wept, cursing himself for not meeting and protecting her sooner, but Victoria jumped in to throw cold water on them. "Our family is elite high society," she snapped. "We cannot accept a tainted woman with a dirty past." Rachel froze in Ethan's arms, completely stunned. She looked up with teary eyes, whispering to Ethan, "You said you were just an ordinary clerk." Victoria sneered, proudly revealing the truth. "My son is the chairman of Ascent Group. He is the most powerful tycoon in the financial world." Learning her husband was a billionaire brought Rachel no joy. Instead, a suffocating wave of insecurity hit her. She remembered their sweet, simple past in the supermarket, but the reality gap woke her up. She secretly went to her shop and signed over half her assets to him. "I can't run this place without Ethan anyway," she told her puzzled staff. "I don't want to owe him anything when we part." The staff gasped, "Rachel, are you divorcing Mr. Ethan?" While Rachel was drowning in sorrow, a little girl tugged her coat. Rachel forced a smile, patting her head. "I'm in a bad mood. Sweetie, go play by yourself." "Okay." The girl burst into tears right there, crying out to Rachel, "No, divorce is bad. Mommy, don't divorce Daddy." That sweet voice screaming, "Mommy," hit Rachel like lightning. The scene shifts to a romantic Hide-and-End restaurant. Rachel and Ethan sat across from each other in suffocating silence. Rachel's eyes were red as she laughed bitterly. "Is it right for us to eat here after everything?" She slid the divorce papers across the table. "I am just a debtor's daughter," she said flatly. "I can't keep up with the billionaire chairman of Ascent. I'm walking away with nothing. Let me go." Looking at the papers, the stoic tycoon lost all control. "What kind of man do you think I am?" Ethan roared. "Do you think I'm a monster who abandons his wife?" He slammed a $1 billion check onto the table. "Here is your alimony," he barked in fury. Rachel gasped at the astronomical figure, asking if he was mad. The next second, Ethan yanked her roughly into his chest. His voice trembled as he begged for answers. "Where did you hide? What did I do wrong to make you leave?" Rachel pushed him away with tears in her eyes. "Today is the end of our 3-day pact," she said. She turned to mock Scarlett, who was sitting nearby. "Did you think I'd hand over the files in the middle of nowhere, just so you could frame me for theft?" "Exposed," Scarlett screamed to Victoria, claiming Rachel was a thief. Ethan wanted to settle this privately as a married couple, but Rachel took full control of the room. "We are settling this score in front of everyone today," she demanded. She pointed right at Scarlett, fighting back word for word. "First, Ethan gave me all the house keys on day 2. If I wanted to steal the bid, I could have done it long ago. Second, I didn't steal. I protected the files from the mole." Her logic was flawless, leaving Victoria completely speechless. Victoria spun around, demanding answers from Scarlett. Rachel pressed on, exposing Scarlett's blackmail plot entirely. The ugly truth was dragged into the sunlight. Ethan's gaze turned deadly cold, making Scarlett turn white. Even with the truth out, the stubborn Victoria wouldn't back down. "Our family is a dynasty," she slammed the table. "We won't accept a woman who was ruined on a cruise ship." Hearing his mother say such foul things to his traumatized wife, Ethan completely lost his mind, leaping up with a roar. "Mom, don't you dare say that." Rachel was the innocent victim, looking at the man fighting his own mother to shield her. Rachel's tears overflowed. She shook her head in agony. "Your mother is right. It's my fault," she wept. "I shouldn't ruin your perfect life." Crushed by the weight of high society, Rachel broke. She spoke the most painful words. "Ethan, let's break up." Back in the restaurant, Ethan held his sobbing wife gently. "Couples fight, it's normal. Don't be angry anymore," he soothed. He explained his mother's obsession with status came from toxic family wars. He cupped her face, giving a golden promise. "I am solely responsible for our marriage. No one hurts you again." Hearing his heavy vow, Rachel calmed down slightly. She pushed the $billion check back to him. "Take this back. Let me think about it," she whispered. She walked down the empty street alone, completely lost. Her mind replayed their sweet memories of playing in the store. Meanwhile, Ethan faced a bigger storm in his hotel room. His assistant walked in grimly, handing over a black bugging device. "We found this in your bedroom, sir. The source is untraceable." Ethan took the bug, his eyes flashing with lethal fury. "Keep digging. Do not leave a single stone unturned." Then his phone rang. An informant cleared Rachel's name. She wasn't cheating. She was just shooting an ad with staff. Ethan breathed a sigh of relief, but the assistant trembled. He handed over the red property deed Rachel had signed away. "She is serious about the divorce, sir." Staring at the heavy deed, Ethan spoke with absolute finality. "Even if she leaves me, I will never let anyone hurt her." He called Rachel out to the restaurant again, holding her hand. "Please don't be mad about the past," he pleaded. Rachel laughed a hollow, tragic laugh, looking deep into his eyes. "If I knew you were a billionaire, I'd never have married you. The crew's nightmare and our status gap make me feel like a parasite." She mocked his own words with tears. "Because our parents suffered from elite wars, status matters too much." As their relationship hit a dead end, a flashback cut in. Rachel had been walking aimlessly on the street earlier. She had frozen in absolute shock by a luxury car. Her beloved husband, Ethan, was tightly embracing her enemy, Scarlett. They were laughing, talking, and kissing each other's cheeks in public. That scene shattered her remaining trust like a lightning bolt. She covered her mouth, crying silently in the dark. Was all his devotion just a lie? The scene cuts back to the shop. Rachel looked at the little girl calling her mommy. Suppressed by grief, she knelt down to touch her face. "You little troublemaker, where did you learn to say that?" she asked softly. "Don't call me mommy outside. People will misunderstand." She watched the little girl walk away in her white dress, staring at her tiny silhouette. Rachel muttered in a daze, "But that child looks so much like I did when I was little." This wicked elite extra never expected the billionaire's fury. To save his wife, the tycoon went completely insane. The exhibition scene looked peaceful, but danger was brewing. The heiress Scarlett was embracing the fallen rich boy. Pierce the Timmy Huamian and spy audio that broke Rachel's heart were hides and tech fakes. Pierce wanted to use a fake funding offer to steal Rachel's brand. "I love watching a street sparrow try to fly high," he sneered to Scarlett, only to watch her crash and smash into bloody pieces. But Pierce had no idea Ethan was already 10 steps ahead. His assistant Leo had completely investigated Pierce's background. He brought the good news that Rachel had already rejected the snake. "Sir, you love her so much. Why not just tell her the truth?" Leo wept. Ethan looked at the files, his heart aching with pure tenderness. He knew his mother's insults had left deep psychological scars. She ran away because she felt inferior, Ethan thought. "But I will never let her go in this lifetime." Just as Ethan went to find her, disaster struck. Rachel was washing her hands in the restroom, completely off guard. Pierce ambushed her, covering her mouth with a drugged cloth. She collapsed instantly into his arms and was smuggled away. In the main hall, Scarlett smirked, texting Pierce to hurry up. Cut to a speeding van. Rachel was bound tight with heavy ropes. A gag was stuffed brutally into her mouth. The unhinged Pierce waved a sharp knife against her fair chin. "Once I get 10 million. I will rise again," he laughed maniacally. "But today, I might just take a piece of you first." Even in total peril, Rachel showed zero fear. The gag slipped and she spat at him. "You are pathetic." Enraged, Pierce shoved a fresh cloth back into her mouth. Meanwhile, Ethan was drowning in pure panic inside his luxury car. His smart little niece, Lily, spoke up softly from the side. "I know the bad guy's license plate. I memorized it." With this gold clue, Ethan frantically tracked the surveillance on his laptop. Before he could pinpoint the location, Pierce's ransom call came. Pierce demanded $10 million instantly. Ethan didn't hesitate for a split second. "Don't touch Rachel, and the money is yours," he roared. But the blood zen sucking Pierce wasn't satisfied. When his phone dinged with the 10 Zen million deposit notification, Ethan's instant surrender triggered his psychotic greed. "10 million isn't enough. I want 100 million. Pierce screamed. He expected Ethan to beg, but a cold automated voice rang out in seconds. $100 million deposited successfully. Even the kidnapped Rachel widened her eyes in absolute shock. On the other end, Ethan had gone completely feral, screaming into the phone. "I will give you $1 billion if you let her go. Take my life instead, just trade me for her." Hearing this, Rachel's face was washed with tears. She finally understood this man loved her more than life itself. But Pierce was completely consumed by the madness promise of extreme wealth. He laughed maniacally and slammed the phone down. I want the untouchable Ethan to feel total helpless agony, he cackled. By the desolate river, Pierce brutally shoved Rachel into a heavy sack. He tied the opening tight with thick ropes. Rachel thrashed in pure desperation inside the darkness. The psychotic monster used all his strength to kick the sack into the freezing river. He let out a blood-curdling laugh as the sack began to sink. Rachel! At that exact life-Zan or Zan death moment, a agonizing roar tore through the ridge. Ethan arrived, his eyes bloodshot with terror. Like a furious lion, he sprinted toward the water in pure madness. Could he drag his beloved wife back from death's door at the final second? On the freezing riverbank grass, Rachel was kneeling, sobbing hysterically. She tightly held her pale, unconscious husband, Ethan. She begged him frantically to open his eyes and look at her. Leo, bandaging his own wounds, cried out in total despair. "Ma'am, the boss might not make it." But the hysterical Rachel refused to listen, screaming at him to get away. She pressed her lips against Ethan's lifeless mouth in a desperate kiss. "You idiot." She wept in bitter self-Zan blame. "You don't even know how to swim. Why did you jump in after me?" Just as the pain was about to suffocate her, a miracle occurred. Driven by his wife's agonizing cries, Ethan's finger twitched through Rachel's tears. He painfully slowly opened his eyes. He weakly raised a hand to wipe the tears from her face. "How could this be your fault?" he whispered lovingly. "I failed to protect you." Rachel sobbed uncontrollably, saying she thought he'd be better off without her. Ethan tightly grabbed her collar, his eyes burning with deep devotion. "You fool, how am I supposed to live without you?" The traumatized couple held each other tight on the grass, weeping as one. Victoria and Leo rushed over across the wasteland, turning away to wipe their tears. Out of the ashes, a new blessing rose. Ethan was resting comfortably in a luxury VIP hospital suite, watching his wife run around catering to his every need. The proud tycoon insisted he was fine and could discharge in 2 days. Rachel kept a stern face, her heart aching for him. "The doctor said your lungs were severely flooded and infected. How can you say it doesn't hurt?" Ethan smirked, pulling her hand into his chest with a heavy vow. "As long as you stay with me, this pain is nothing, but you abandoned me for days. Don't you owe me some compensation?" Their brush with death made their bond tighter than ever, but a toxic pest just had to ruin the moment. The door was slammed open brutally, and Scarlett rushed in like a lunatic. She threw herself at Ethan's bedside, grabbing his hand. She put on a disgusting, overly dramatic show of grief. "Are you hurt badly?" she shrieked. Ethan's face turned pitch black, and he threw her hand off with total disgust. "Touch me again, and I will sue you for sexual harassment," he warned coldly. The thick tan-skinned Scarlett ignored him, peeling an orange to force into his mouth. Losing all patience, Ethan flipped his hand, sending the orange flying. It rolled violently all over the floor. Getting rejected completely, Scarlett ran to Victoria's arms to cry and complain. She put her hands on her hips, screaming hysterically in the room. "Our families were so close, we were practically betrothed. Why do you treat me like a monster while a basic girl steals my spot?" She blamed Rachel entirely for why Ethan refused to marry her. But to her absolute shock, the usually biased Victoria sighed heavily. "Scarlett, I know you are hurting," Victoria said helplessly. "Guochu, our families never actually set a formal betrothal." Hearing her ultimate ally take Rachel's side, Scarlett's mind snapped. She rolled her eyes back and wailed at the ceiling, throwing a full tantrum. "I don't want to live anymore. I'm going to kill myself," she shrieked. Watching Scarlett trash the room and cause a scene, Victoria sighed in distress. At the vital moment, the real Queen Rachel stepped up. She patted Victoria's shoulder, giving her a reassuring look. "Mom, let me handle this," Rachel said smoothly. She walked over to Scarlett, looking down at her with freezing contempt. "You claim I stole Ethan," Rachel said coldly. "If you are so confident, go ahead and steal him back right now." Rachel unleashed her full alpha aura, announcing their legal marriage. "We are legally wed and protected by the law. If you keep causing drama and ruining our names, everyone loses." Then, she dropped a massive bold bait with crossed arms. "I will give you one single night. If you can make Ethan change his mind tonight, I will hand him over instantly." Sure enough, the fish swallowed the bait. That night, the hospital room's vibe turned completely absurd. To flip her luck, Scarlett dressed up in a revealing outfit. She sneaked into Ethan's room alone, dancing seductively by his bed. Meanwhile, outside the door, the scene was pure comedy. Our heroine Rachel was holding a round metal tray over her face, like a shield. Beside her was the assistant in sunglasses, both bending over like thieves. Their faces were glued to the glass window, spying on the room. The assistant scratched his head, whispering in utter confusion, "Ma'am, what are you doing? Why give this snake a private chance?" Rachel rolled her eyes behind her tray, explaining softly, "I don't want my mother Zanin's-in-law to be caught in the middle. Plus, my husband literally traded his life for mine today. If I don't even have this much trust, I'd be too petty." Inside the room, Scarlett was leaning over the bed, looking at the reading Ethan. Seeing the tycoon completely ignore her, she bit her lip, purring in a toxic voice. "Ethan, why won't you look at me? Am I a gorgeous woman, not as interesting as that trashy book?" Disturbed from his peace, Ethan slowly closed his book. He didn't even give her a glance, keeping an icy, lethal expression. He began to educate the uneducated heiress with pure intellectual dominance. "What I am holding is Don Quixote by Cervantes," he said coldly. "It has sold over 500 million copies worldwide, meaning at least 500 million people appreciate its value." Then Ethan looked up, his eyes filled with absolute mockery and disgust. "So tell me, Miss Scarlett, where do you get the nerve to compare yourself to it?" Shattered by this brutal psychological insult, Scarlett shrieked in fury. She snatched the book from his hands and slammed it onto the floor. Outside, the assistant almost jumped with joy, giving Rachel a massive thumbs down up. "Look at that stoic resolve, ma'am. Full marks, absolutely brilliant," he cheered. Rachel held her metal tray, giggling behind her hand as her worries vanished. But inside, Scarlett refused to back down, shifting from seduction to force. She took a deep breath, dancing closer while unbuttoning her white coat. She was preparing her final desperation move. She threw herself onto the edge of the bed, weeping dramatically. "My love for you can crawl into the dirt and bloom into a flower," she sobbed. Ethan leaned back, looking at her like she was a total clown. "Since you love literature so much, do you know where the exit is?" he asked flatly. Scarlett blinked, replying automatically, "Of course I do. It is right there." Ethan caught her trap instantly, issuing a freezing eviction order. "Excellent. Then please take your dramatic self back to your own house. Go wash your face and sleep, because I need to rest." Repeatedly humiliated, Scarlett completely lost it, stomping her feet like a child. "What did I say wrong?" she screamed hysterically. Ethan lost his remaining patience, piercing her final mask ruthlessly. "Using that beautiful quote on yourself is an insult to the author," he snapped. "Because there is zero love in your heart, Scarlett. You only love the infinite vanity my status provides. You just want to destroy and pluck a flower that doesn't belong to you." Hit right in her weak spot, Scarlett lashed out with venom. "Rachel only married you because you're a billionaire," she shrieked. Hearing her insult his wife, Ethan defended Rachel with a roaring voice. "Until recently, Rachel thought I was just a broke junior clerk. Even when she thought she earned way more than me, she never thought of leaving. Instead, she carefully managed our life and surprised me every day. That is what real love looks like," Ethan barked. "Do you understand?" Defeated on every single level, the enraged Scarlett threw away her dignity. "I don't care. If I can't have happiness, no one can," she screamed. She slammed the light switch, plunging the room into darkness. Then, a hilarious twist occurred. Just as everyone expected a horrific attack, loud club music blasted in the room. The dark suite suddenly flashed with wild, multicolored strobe lights. Even more absurdly, Scarlett stripped off her coat, revealing a tight gray dress. Waving two neon glow sticks, she began twerking frantically. She shrieked like a banshee, dancing around his bed. This eyes-and burning, terrifying performance left Rachel and the assistant stunned outside. The assistant's jaw literally hit the floor. Rachel let out a gasp, covering her eyes tight with the metal tray. It was too painful to watch. Inside, the billionaire tycoon suffered a catastrophic mental attack. Faced with the crazy girl grinding against him, the mighty CEO froze in pure horror. His face went pale and he buried his head under the pillows and blankets. He squirmed on the bed like a helpless victim. Seeing Scarlett trying to pounce onto the bed, Ethan's sanity broke completely. The Zan mighty CEO didn't even grab his shoes. He scrambled off the other side of the bed barefoot, climbing over the railing. Fleeing like she was the plague, he bolted out the door like a track star. Behind him, Scarlett screamed from the bed, "Ethan, don't leave me." Ethan slammed the door shut, locking it tight with a nearby mop handle. Wiping cold sweat, he screamed through the door. "Get the hell out!" Trapped inside under the creepy purple lights, Scarlett pounded the glass. She looked like a horror movie ghost, screaming in absolute despair. The camera cuts back to an earlier confrontation. Ethan had destroyed Scarlett's delusions in front of everyone. "Our parents discussed marriage purely for corporate profits," he told her coldly. "We never had a real engagement. Even if we did, it's just trash to me now. I will only marry the woman I truly love." Rachel stood proudly beside him, locking arms to claim her man. She pointed right at Scarlett's face, delivering a satisfying blow. "You have no dignity, no self-respect, and zero shame," Rachel barked. She pointed at the main door with a cold command. "Get out." Completely defeated, Scarlett became an outcast. She spat a final curse at Rachel and fled frantically in her high heels. The room finally fell quiet, and Ethan pulled Rachel into a tender hug. "No one will ever hurt or interfere with us again," he promised. "Onsen, I'm discharged. We are going on a vacation together." Moreover, the most unexpected family reconciliation happened in the hallway. Victoria stopped Rachel. Under Rachel's shocked, nervous gaze, Victoria smiled warmly and gestured gently. "You can change how you address me now," she said softly. Overwhelmed with joy, Rachel called her mom with teary eyes. Victoria was deeply touched, pulling her daughter Zan-in-Zan-Law onto a bench. She poured her heart out in a sincere apology. "I saw too many brutal elite wars, so I forced status on Ethan," she admitted. "I said so many horrific things to you. But seeing you lately, you are brilliant, dignified, and mature. I truly love you as my daughter Zan-in-Zan-Law now." They held hands tightly, the once tyrannical mother Zan-in-Zan-Law completely won over. Rachel wept, confessing she had tried to force herself to leave Ethan due to insecurity. "But this near-Zan death crisis taught me a lesson." Rachel smiled through tears. "If you truly love someone, you must face the storm together. I will never run away again." Seeing her strength, Victoria was deeply moved. She slipped her priceless heirloom bracelet onto Rachel's wrist. "You have my blessing," she promised warmly. The elite family drama dissolved into nothing, and Rachel was finally fully accepted. Days passed and the scene shifted to the gorgeous sunny beaches of Miami. Ethan and Rachel wore chic, romantic summer outfits. They walked along the golden shore, holding hands with Lily. The adorable little girl with pigtails was jumping happily in the waves. Ethan watched her, turning to ask Rachel gently, "We've been vacationing with her for so long. Won't her parents worry?" Rachel knelt down with deep affection, cupping Lily's chubby cheeks. She stood up, looking at Ethan with a shy smile. "Do you think I'm meddling too much?" she asked, holding his hand. Her life was just too brutal. A childhood shouldn't be filled with suffering. "I want to give her beautiful memories before we part." Ethan squeezed her hand, his eyes overflowing with pure devotion. "Never. Plus, we share a special bond with this child. If she hadn't screamed for help by the car to get my attention, I might have failed to rescue you from the fire that day." It turned out the little girl was the angel who saved Rachel's life. As they laughed, Lily spun around on the sand, waving her teddy bear. "Daddy, Mommy, come play over here," she cheered loudly. Hearing Daddy and Mommy, the couple froze, then smiled happily at each other. "We're coming," Ethan called out, rushing over Zan hand with his wife. The three of them knelt happily next to a massive red heart sculpture. A photographer snapped the shutter, freezing the beautiful moment in a flash. He walked over with the printed photo, praising them. "You look like such a beautiful, happy family," he smiled. Hearing the word family, Rachel felt a strange, sweet sensation. "Ethan, what was he saying just now?" she asked, confused by the local slang. Ethan patted Lily's head, laughing softly. "He said we look very sweet as a family." Rachel's heart melted completely, and she reached out to fix Lily's messy bangs. But as her fingers brushed the hair away from Lily's neck, the most shocking, blood-chilling plot twist erupted without warning. On the back of Lily's fair neck, a unique dark birthmark was exposed. The shape and position were identical to the birthmark on Rachel's own neck. Rachel's smile froze instantly, her eyes widening in pure horror. She stood there like she'd been hit by lightning, her mind buzzing. The perfect ending was shattered to pieces. This poor little girl was the biological child Rachel lost after the crew's assault. And in a dark hallway nearby, Scarlett's evil smirk signaled the storm was far from over. In their penthouse home, Rachel sank into the plush sofa, sighing happily. We're finally home. I missed my big sofa so much. Ethan knelt beside her, handing a massive bag of snacks and toys to Lily. These are all for you, Lily, he said gently. Tomorrow, make sure your parents take them all home. Okay, hearing this, Rachel hugged Lily tighter, reluctant to let her go. Can we not talk about tomorrow's goodbye today? She complained. Lily wants to stay with her auntie a bit longer. Watching them interact like real mother and daughter, Ethan's eyes melted, but the sweet moment was shattered by violent banging on the door. Before they could react, a scruffy, violent man named Winston barged in. His wife, Mabel, followed him arrogantly into the living room, screaming, "Lily, get your little ass out here right now." Rachel and Ethan's faces fell, instantly shielding Lily behind their backs. Winston swaggered up to Ethan, demanding money shamelessly. "Pay up first. You rented my daughter for days. $100 a day, cough it up right now." Faced with these trashy parents, Ethan pulled out a stack of hundreds and dollar bills. He slammed them onto the table with an icy warning. "I can give you the cash, but every cent must be spent on Lily." But the couple ignored him completely. Mabel spotted Lily hiding behind the couch. Winston lunged forward, grabbing the girl like a chicken. With fury in his eyes, he raised a hand to strike her, making Lily scream. Rachel and Ethan couldn't stand it, rushing forward to stop him. Ethan caught Winston's dirty hand in an iron vice grip filled with murder. Mabel put her hands on her hips, yelling defensively, "We are disciplining our own kid. It's none of your business." Ethan shoved the man back fiercely, speaking with righteous authority. "Fine, it's not my business, but it is the police's business. Under the Child Protection Act, child abuse is a felony even for biological parents." Hearing the word police, the arrogant couple froze, their eyes darting around. "Hey brother, calm down," they stammered in fear. "We were just scaring her. We'd never actually hurt our baby." But this time, Ethan was done showing mercy. The scene shifts, and Lily was happily hugging Rachel. Rachel looked at a relaxed Ethan, unable to believe it. "How did you get them to leave Lily behind? You didn't kidnap her, did you?" Ethan smirked, raising an eyebrow. "You guessed right, but the kid wasn't kidnapped. Those two animals were." Ethan had ordered Leo to conduct a deep background check earlier. Winston and Mabel weren't Lily's biological parents at all. They were wanted human traffickers who had fled the law for years. Ethan had secretly coordinated with the police to bust them right in the house. They were dragged straight to prison, and Lily was now state property. Rachel cheered at the arrest, but looked at Lily with deep heartache. But now, the poor thing is a helpless orphan. She's so small. Hearing her sigh, the wise Lily looked up with an angelic smile. "I'm not sad, Auntie," she chirped. "I have a mommy and a daddy. I am very happy." Looking at her strange devotion, Rachel held her tight, crying to Ethan, "This child is meant to be ours. I want to care for her forever." In truth, Ethan had already secured everything. The night of the arrest, the traffickers confessed under Ethan's immense pressure. To lower their sentences, they exposed the truth from 2 years ago. Winston had kneeled on the floor, begging for mercy. "Sir, we didn't know she was your child," he wept. 2 years ago, a mysterious woman met us in the middle of the night. She gave us a massive fortune we couldn't refuse. She handed us a baby in a blanket, demanding we take her abroad forever. The hospital wristband was still on her arm reading Lily, so we just kept calling her by that name. At that moment, all the puzzles connected perfectly into a single line. The child lost after her suicide attempt was right in front of them. She was the girl who guarded her mother's bed and clung to Rachel. She wasn't a stranger. She was the baby Rachel delivered before losing her memory. A month later, they stood before the gorgeous corporate building. Ethan walked up to Rachel, pulling a file from his coat. It was an adoption registration application. He took her hand, looking deeply into her eyes. "Rachel, I submitted the adoption papers through a scent group, barring any issues. We are officially her legal parents starting today." Rachel looked at the papers, tears of pure joy flooding her face. Suddenly, Lily bounded over with her pigtails flying, giggling loudly. "Wrong. Lily was always your daughter," she cheered. Her innocent shout broke their emotional floodgates. Ethan and Rachel embraced tightly, kissing deeply before their daughter. After 2 years of separation and endless plots, the family was finally whole. Time jumped to 8 months later. The commercial shoot for their skincare line was bright and crowded. Rachel was heavily pregnant, radiating pure maternal joy in her 9th month. Months ago, a random cute photo of Lily had caught a top talent scout's eye. Now, Lily was the star model for her mother's children's skincare brand. The campaign was a massive hit, blowing top celebrities out of the water. The jealous cousin who used to cause drama watched from the side, fully humbled. "This is what you call karma," she sighed in defeat. "Good things happen to good people after all." Rachel held a powder puff, gently touching up her angel daughter's makeup. "This is the last shoot for the year, sweetie," she cooed cutely. "School comes first, so you need to focus on your studies now. You have to set a wonderful example for your baby brother, right?" Lily tilted her gorgeous face up, flashing the brightest smile in the world. Standing nearby, the successful Ethan watched his wife and daughter with endless love. The smoke of the corporate wars had fully cleared. The villains had all faced their bitter justice. And the beautiful life for this family of 4 was only just beginning. The scene opens with a cold-blooded Scarlett standing alone by an empty fire pit. As the flames flare up, she expressionlessly tosses a piece of paper into the barrel, burning it to ashes. The camera zooms in, revealing the destroyed paper is a DNA report that reads, "Paternity confirmed." Scarlett's eyes turn sinister, a chilling smirk creeping onto her face as she curses under her breath. "Amber, I can't believe you're still alive, you bitch. But too bad, this secret dies with me. I'll make sure you stay quiet forever." Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, morning sunlight streams into a cozy bedroom. Amber wakes up tangled in the arms of her husband, Ethan. Looking at her sleeping lover, she playfully pinches Ethan's cheek and sweetly tells him to get up. She wants to make breakfast so they can head to work together. But Ethan pulls her right back into his chest, giving her a deep, passionate kiss. Looking at a flustered Amber, Ethan smirks and confesses his little secret. He used his CEO privileges to clear his schedule, giving them a 3-day weekend. Amber finally breathes a sigh of relief, playfully swatting at him. Ethan pulls her even closer, whispering that his wife is the most beautiful woman in the world. Before Amber can even celebrate, Ethan drops a bombshell while buttoning his shirt by the bed. They have to go to the family mansion today because the whole extended family is dying to meet the new Mrs. Hunt. Amber completely loses it, jumping out of bed and grabbing her hair in a panic. She complains that she hasn't done a face mask, has zero makeup on, and hasn't even washed her hair. Watching her pace around like a maniac, Ethan chuckles and teases her about meeting the in-laws. Furious but amused, Amber lunges at Ethan, and they end up wrestling on the bed. The room fills with laughter, radiating pure affection. As night falls, a sleek black luxury sedan with a custom plate rolls into the Hunt family's century-old estate in the Hamptons. The door opens and Amber steps out in a gorgeous high-end blue gown, escorted by Ethan in a sharp tuxedo. Instantly, rows of butlers, maids, and staff bow low on both sides. They shout in unison, "Welcome home, Mr. and Mrs. Hunt." Amber has never seen such a crazy, royal-like reception and freezes in shock. She secretly tugs Ethan's sleeve and whispers if they just walked into some cult to inherit billions. Ethan smiles, wrapping a reassuring arm around her shoulder. "Don't worry," he says softly. "From now on, this is your home too." Walking into the glamorous dining room, Ethan proudly introduces Amber to the family elders. The grandparents sitting at the head of the table light up the moment they see Amber. They warmly wave her over, telling their new granddaughter-in-law to come sit next to them. Amber takes her seat gracefully, presenting a bottle of vintage Napa Valley wine she personally selected for Grandpa. Grandpa takes a sniff, his face beaming with joy as he laughs out loud. He points at Ethan and makes a promise to Amber. "Kiddo, if this boy ever treats you wrong, you come straight to me. I'll personally kick his butt." The cousins, aunts, and uncles join in, showering her with expensive gifts. An aunt even slides a priceless, exquisite jade bracelet onto Amber's wrist. The family's unconditional love makes this girl, who grew up struggling, feel true warmth for the first time. Just as the wine flows and the family bonding reaches its peak, a maid walks up to Grandma. With a panicked look, she whispers quietly into Grandma's ear, "Ma'am, Scarlett is here. She's waiting right outside." Hearing that name, Grandma's smile vanishes instantly, her eyes turning cold as ice. The cheerful atmosphere at the table drops to a freezing point. Grandma lets out a cold scoff and orders in a flat tone, "Let her in." A moment later, Scarlett clicks into the dining room in high heels holding an elegant gift box. She acts all high and mighty, putting on a fake smile as she greets Grandma. She hands over the gift, claiming she just got back from abroad and came straight over to visit. But Grandma doesn't even blink, turning her head away with a cold, "Thanks for the trouble." She casually waves her hand for the maid to take the gift away. Embarrassed, Scarlett stiffens up, then sways over to Ethan. She rests her hand on Ethan's shoulder, complaining in a whiny voice that he didn't tell her he was coming home. Ethan's face darkens instantly, looking ready to explode. He violently shrugs his shoulder, throwing Scarlett's hand off him. He stands up, confronting her, and barks out in a freezing tone for everyone to hear. "Because this is a private Hunt family dinner, and I am married. Respect my boundaries, keep your hands to yourself, or you'll upset my wife." Exposed in front of everyone, Scarlett snaps and completely loses her mind. She points a finger at Amber, screaming hysterically, asking what kind of lies she told Ethan. Scarlett screeches in the middle of the dining room, claiming she is the only woman who grew up with Ethan. She calls herself his childhood sweetheart and brands Amber as a cheap homewrecker. Hearing this pure disrespect, an aunt slams her hand on the table and stands up furious. "Scarlett, is this how your family raised you? Where are your manners?" Grandma's face turns pale with rage, her piercing eyes locking onto Scarlett. "Scarlett, you crashed our family dinner uninvited, which is rude enough. Now you dare insult my granddaughter-in-law? Do you think I am too old to put you in your place?" But a completely unhinged Scarlett doesn't care anymore. She lets out a bitter, wicked laugh, pointing at Amber with pure hatred. "Are you all really blind enough to accept this gold digger who isn't even in Ethan's league? She's a nobody, an orphan who came from nowhere." Hearing this, the veins in Ethan's hands pop, while Amber drops her head, her face turning pale. That old sting of insecurity cuts deep into her heart. Right then, Grandma slowly stands up, smoothing her sleeves. Her eyes flash with the absolute power and authority of a true matriarch. She speaks to Scarlett, making every single word hit like a brick. "Listen to me carefully, Scarlett. When the Hunts marry, we don't care about status or money. We have plenty of both. As long as Ethan loves her, I don't care if Amber is a regular girl or a beggar on the street. She is the only granddaughter-in-law I will ever recognize." This fierce protection hits Scarlett like a physical slap to the face. Crushed by Grandma's overwhelming pressure, Scarlett knows she has completely lost. She grinds her teeth, mutters, "I am leaving," and flees the mansion in total humiliation. Meanwhile, the camera cuts to a luxury hotel suite. Ryan, wearing a gray bathrobe after his shower, is drying his hair. His assistant walks in and reports quietly that Scarlett is downstairs. The calm look on Ryan's face disappears instantly, replaced by sheer excitement and panic. He drops his towel, rushes to his closet, and starts scrambling into a shirt. Fumbling with the buttons, he can't wait to run downstairs and see the woman he loves. Look closely, everyone. The clues were there all along. On a hospital bench, Brandon holds a medical report, seriously suggesting a DNA test to Amber. Amber keeps her head down, torn, saying her mind is a mess and she needs time to think. Brandon gently pats her shoulder, promising to wait for her call. He confesses that the only reason he even joined the Hunt Corporation was for her. It looks like the mystery of her identity is about to be unlocked. The camera cuts back to the present day. Amber is walking alone down the street when her best friend calls to cancel their plan. Her friend keeps apologizing over the phone, but Amber has no idea what is coming. Right behind a tree, a shady thug named Tiger in a flashy shirt is locked onto her. Just after hanging up, Amber gets a call from Ethan. She happily tells Ethan to drive over and pick her up. But before she can finish her sentence, Tiger lunges at her like a monster from behind. He covers her mouth tightly and drags her into a dark alley. On the other end of the line, Ethan hears the struggle and panics. He screams Amber's name repeatedly into the phone. Realizing his wife is in danger, Ethan goes into a frenzy. He whips the steering wheel, slams on the gas, and tears through the streets searching for her. By now, Tiger has dragged Amber to a deserted, creepy, abandoned railroad track. Amber fights back with everything she has, but Tiger slams her hard against the wall. Terrified, tears stream down her face as she screams for help at the top of her lungs. Tiger snaps and hits her across the face with a brutal slap. He glares at her like a psycho, telling her to keep screaming to see who shows up. Amber holds her burning cheek, crying out Ethan's name, begging him to save her. The disgusting thug doesn't stop, tearing at her clothes to intimidate her. He threatens her, telling her to stop playing hard to get. Trying to survive, Amber begs Tiger to let her go, offering him every cent she has. But Tiger is completely driven by lust and ignores her pleas. He grabs her jaw, making creepy comments about her skin and body, saying she is his today. Just as Tiger tries to force himself on her, Amber lets out a final, terrified scream. At that exact second, Ethan appears out of nowhere like an absolute guardian angel. Seeing his woman being touched, Ethan completely loses his mind. He charges forward, grabs Tiger by the collar, and throws a massive punch with all his strength. The blow sends Tiger flying flat onto the ground. Ethan looks like a man possessed, pinning Tiger down and raining heavy punches onto his face. He screams hysterically, "Who gave you permission to touch her?" Covered in blood and completely broken, Tiger can only groan in pure agony on the dirt. Amber, terrified Ethan might actually kill him, hugs him from behind, crying for him to stop. Snapping back to reality, Ethan stops, stands up, and gives Tiger one last brutal kick. That was incredibly satisfying. The scene shifts to a high-end tea room. Scarlett is casually sipping coffee when Chloe, Wesley's heavily pregnant wife, storms in. Chloe glares at Scarlett with suspicion, asking if she was the anonymous caller who sent the cheating photos. Scarlett looks at Chloe's baby bump, letting out a fake, passive-aggressive smile. She offers a hollow congratulations. Chloe doesn't buy the act at all, telling her to cut the crap because her time is valuable. Seeing this, Scarlett finally shows her true colors. She pretends to feel bad, pulling a stack of candid photos from her bag and sliding them over. The photos clearly show Amber and Wesley looking way too close. Looking at the pictures, Chloe's mind completely blows up. She slams the table, screaming obscenities about Amber hooking up with her husband. Scarlett takes the chance to fan the flames, claiming Amber is just a natural homewrecker. She adds that Amber is currently working as an executive assistant at Hunt Corp, living her best life. Blinded by rage, Chloe spits out a curse, grabs her bag, and storms out to get revenge. Watching Chloe leave, Scarlett lets out a sinister, twisted smile. Her plan to get someone else to do her dirty work worked perfectly, but nobody expected another drama to go down at the Hunt Corporation office at the exact same time. Amber is walking with her head down when a furious Chloe blocks her path. Chloe crosses her arms, immediately jumping into full bully mode. She insults Amber, saying she must be too busy climbing into executives' beds to remember her. Looking at the unstable pregnant woman, Amber frowns and coldly calls her name, Chloe. Chloe lets out a bitter laugh, completely losing it, asking why Amber is still chasing Wesley. She calls Amber a cheap woman who can't survive without a man. Facing the verbal abuse, Amber stays perfectly calm and fires right back. She tells Chloe she threw that trash away a long time ago, and warns her she will sue for defamation if she keeps making a scene. Amber states coldly that Wesley might be a prize to Chloe, but to her, he's absolutely nothing. This completely pushes Chloe over the edge into pure madness. She screams hysterically, calling Amber a rat from the slums. She raises her hand, swinging it with all her might to slap Amber across the face. The co-workers watching the drama cover their mouths in shock smack, but the blow never lands. At the perfect moment, Ethan storms into the room like a hurricane. With a furious face, he steps in front of Amber and locks his hand around Chloe's wrist. His grip is so tight that Chloe gasps in pure pain. Ethan throws Chloe's hand away, turning around with deep concern to check on Amber. Once Chloe regains her balance, she looks at Ethan's expensive suit and assumes he's Amber's new sugar daddy. She crosses her arms, acting incredibly arrogant, and threatens Ethan. She asks if he wants to play the hero, claiming she can get the big boss of Hunt Corp to fire him with one call. The air in the room instantly freezes. Ethan lets out a dark chuckle, looking at her with pure amusement. "Oh really?" he asks coldly. "You think you have that kind of power?" But Chloe keeps digging her own grave, calling Ethan a low-level worker, and threatening to ruin him in this city. Ethan's eyes turn into absolute ice, crossing his arms as his terrifying aura fills the room. He says word for word, with pure malice, "I'd love to see you try." Oh man, talking trash right to the actual CEO's face. Chloe just messed with the wrong guy. Everyone is just waiting to see her get completely destroyed. You've been missing for over 10 years. Why didn't you just die? The moment Scarlett picks up the phone, her face twists with pure jealousy and rage. She screams at her insider in the lab, a tech named Sam. It turns out Brandon has actually found the real heiress who went missing a decade ago. Sam explains helplessly over the phone that Brandon is treating Amber like royalty. Now, they grab food together every day, and Brandon's security detail watched the entire lab test. A dark glimpse of evil flashes in Scarlett's eyes. To stop the truth about the bloodline from coming out, she makes Sam an offer he can't refuse. She promises to use her connections to get him into a top-tier research team so he can leave this boring lab. Blinded by greed and ambition, Sam folds completely, agreeing to swap the DNA results. Hanging up, Scarlett immediately moves to phase 2 of her plan. She corners Ethan in a quiet room, slamming a stack of photos onto the table. The pictures clearly show Amber and Brandon looking incredibly intimate. Scarlett stirs the pot, pretending to care, claiming she saw Brandon keep Amber overnight. She insinuates their relationship goes way beyond boss and assistant. Ethan's face goes completely pale, forcing out a cold. "I trust my wife." But his fist is shaking violently by his side, and he squeezes his coffee cup so hard it spills. His actions completely betray the agonizing jealousy and pain ripping through his chest. But what really happened that night? Flashback to the evening before. Amber in her pink pajamas is cuddling with Ethan on the couch. Amber holds his arm, acting cute, saying she wants to crash at her best friend's place tonight. Ethan gets a little jealous, asking why she is leaving him to stay somewhere else. But after a barrage of sweet pleas from his wife, the CEO melts and smiles helplessly. He gently pinches her cheek and gives her his blessing. Amber happily tells him he is the best husband ever, never dreaming this innocent sleepover would be twisted into an affair. Back to the present day. With a face darker than thunder, Ethan pushes open the tea room door, warning Brandon never to call him out late again. But as the door opens, he sees Scarlett waiting inside too. Scarlett immediately plays the victim, trying to expose the situation to Brandon and Ethan. Right in front of Ethan, she loudly demands why Brandon is treating a little assistant so well. She implies their behavior has crossed the line. Ethan sits there coldly defending Amber, saying Brandon is just her boss and telling Scarlett to back off. Seeing him refuse to believe it, Scarlett throws the photos of Amber and Brandon onto the table. She screams, "I am just doing this because I can't watch you get played." Staring at the photographic evidence, Ethan closes his eyes in pure agony. With all the fake information piling up, he starts to waver, his body trembling from the pain of betrayal. Seeing her opening, Scarlett smiles triumphantly and proposes a plan. She offers to take Ethan to the location tomorrow morning so he can see what Amber is up to with his own eyes. In another luxury suite across town, Amber is nervously fixing her clothes. Her brother, Brandon, is about to take her to meet their long-lost mother, Mrs. Gray. Inside the room, Mrs. Gray has completely lost her mind from the grief of losing her daughter years ago. Her hair is a mess as she sits on the edge of the bed clutching a baby doll, crying out for her little girl. In her confusion, she suddenly snaps, mistaking her nurse for the kidnapper who took her baby. Mrs. Gray completely loses control, screaming at the nurse, demanding to know where she hid her baby. She lunges forward, pinning the nurse to the bed, locking her hands around her neck in a manic attempt to choke her. Amber and Brandon hear the screams from the hallway, their faces dropping as they burst through the door. Amber screams, "Mom!" as she and Brandon use every ounce of strength to pull their manic mother off the nurse. Pulled away, Mrs. Gray struggles violently, pointing at everyone while weeping. "She took my baby away. I am going to make her pay." Seeing her biological mother broken and suffering like this breaks Amber's heart into a million pieces. Covered in tears, she ignores the danger and wraps her arms around her mother, holding her tight. "Mom, it is me. Look at me. Your little girl is back, Mom." But Mrs. Gray doesn't recognize her crying daughter, just hysterically hugging her cold doll, begging for her baby back. The reunion turns into a heartbreaking scene of pure grief. Amber falls to her knees, her body shaking from crying. Brandon's eyes are bloodshot as he fights back tears, patting his sister's shoulder to pull her up into his arms. "Give her some time, sweetie," he comforts her softly. "We waited over 10 years. We can get through this. Mommy will get better." Amber wipes her tears in despair. "I know we can't rush it. I just lost control, Mom." Mrs. Gray sits blankly on the bed, staring at the lifeless doll, whispering to herself. Meanwhile, Ethan returns to his empty villa alone, sitting exhaustedly on the edge of the bed in his pajamas. He slowly lies down, staring at the empty space on the pillow next to him. Thanks to Scarlett's setup and the forged report, the powerful CEO is now drowning in the despair of thinking his wife betrayed him. On one side, a mother and daughter don't recognize each other, and on the other, a loving couple is torn apart by lies. The storm has officially arrived. Late at night, outside the mansion, the wind howls through the trees, Scarlett, wearing a pink evening gown, sways over to Ethan's luxury car window. She taunts him in a toxic, mocking voice. "Ethan, stop waiting. Amber is definitely not coming out tonight. Who knows what guy she is hooking up with right now?" Hearing her trash Amber so viciously, Ethan snaps his head toward her, his eyes cold as ice. "Shut up," he growls. But Scarlett refuses to stop, getting crazier, calling Amber a completely loose woman. Ethan doesn't waste another breath on this delusional psycho, rolling up the window and slamming on the gas. Left in a cloud of exhaust, Scarlett glares with pure hatred at his taillights. She pulls out her phone and gives a cold order to her henchmen. "Leak the files now. I want to completely ruin her life." Sure enough, the next morning, the hallways of Hunt Corp are buzzing with gossip. Amber is frantic because she can't reach Ethan, but the moment she steps out, she sees co-workers gossiping over a phone. They giggle over the massive scandal, whispering that the big boss's wife is having an affair. They claim the mystery guy is none other than Brandon from finance. The rumors hit Amber like a tidal wave, the nasty words leaving her completely stunned. She pushes open the CEO's office door, rushing straight to Ethan's desk. She demands to know why he isn't taking her calls, begging for a chance to explain. But Ethan is cold as stone, expressionlessly signing documents. As Amber keeps pushing, Ethan slams his pen down, staring at her with pure suspicion and ice. He demands to know whose house she was really at last night, asking why she lied. Amber cries, explaining she was at her best friend's place, but Ethan is completely blinded by the rumors. He lets out a mocking chuckle, telling her to go check the internet herself. With that, the trust between them is completely shattered. Before Amber can even process the heartbreak, an even bigger danger catches her outside. Walking out of the building completely devastated, Tiger blocks her path. Looking panicked, Tiger lies to her, claiming her mother was just in a horrific car accident. He says her father sent him to rush her to the ER. Hearing about her mother, Amber panics for a split second, but her survival instincts kick in. She snaps out of it because her adoptive father passed away years ago. Realizing it is a trap, Amber backs away, demanding to know who he really is. Seeing his cover blown, Tiger turns completely vicious. Just as Ethan notices something wrong from a distance and tries to open his car door, Tiger grabs Amber. He brutally shoves a cloth soaked in sedative over her nose and mouth. Amber fights back, screaming for help, but she goes completely limp within seconds. Tiger throws her into a black van waiting by the curb. Brandon rushes out of the building just in time to see his sister get taken right before his eyes. His eyes turn bloodshot as he screams her name, but the kidnappers vanish into traffic back at the Gray family estate. The jewelry tycoon Arthur is in a total rage over the slander against his daughter. He breaks his lifelong rule of staying out of the spotlight and calls a massive press conference downtown. The venue is packed with cameras and blinding flashlights. The toxic media and reporters aggressively attack Arthur and Brandon on stage. Our reporter even asks if Brandon is having an affair with Ethan's wife, asking Arthur how he feels about his son being a homewrecker. Facing these parasites chasing views, Arthur's face turns purple with rage as he slams the microphone. "That is pure garbage," he roars. Right then, Ethan walks into the press conference surrounded by bodyguards, looking dead inside, facing the media's mockery about him being cheated on. His expression stays icy. He drops a cold, no comment, and takes his seat, determined to see who is behind this plot against his wife. With every camera and spotlight locked onto him, Arthur stands at the podium cold as winter. He commands the room with the absolute authority of a billionaire tycoon. He points to an old photo flashing on the massive screen behind him, his voice echoing through the hall. "I am Arthur Gray, head of the Gray family. The man you are accusing of an affair on the internet is my biological son and the heir to the Gray Empire, Brandon Gray. And Miss Amber, the woman you've been viciously cyberbullying and trashing, is no nobody. She is my biological daughter whom I've been searching for over a decade. The sole princess of the Gray family, Amber Gray." The room erupts into absolute chaos. Arthur's voice booms like thunder as he glares at the reporters. "When the Hunts marry and the Grays give away their daughter, we don't care about anything else. As long as Ethan loves her, my daughter could be a beggar, and she'd still be my absolute world. Who gave you people the right to insult her?" Hearing this massive plot twist, the toxic reporters and Ethan are left completely frozen in absolute shock. Meanwhile, a clueless Amber is living through a total nightmare. In a dark, abandoned warehouse, she is tied tightly to a chair, blood dripping from a head wound, her face pale as a ghost. coast, Tiger and his masked henchmen are arguing because the police are closing in on them. The henchman is shaking, complaining that this job triggered a massive manhunt, saying he wants to give the money back and quit. But a greedy, violent Tiger snaps at him, calling him a coward and screaming that this score will set them up for life. Waking up in a daze, Amber fights through the pain and reasons with Tiger. She tells him that whatever the mastermind paid him, she will double it, even give him 10 times more if he lets her go. But Tiger doesn't care, smirking disgustingly as he strokes his chin. Seeing his filthy hand reaching for her, Amber catches him off guard, a flash of pure desperation in her eyes. She bites down as hard as she can on Tiger's arm. Tiger lets out a horrific scream of pain, completely losing his mind as he grabs her hair and starts beating her brutally. Amber is left covered in blood, crying out in total despair. Just as the monster is about to strike again, the rusty iron doors are smashed open. Ethan storms in with his team and a sea of bodyguards, looking like an avenging angel straight out of hell. Terrified, Tiger panics, pulling a knife and holding it right against Amber's bleeding neck, screaming for everyone to freeze. But seeing Amber covered in blood makes Ethan's eyes go completely bloodshot. He doesn't waste a single word on negotiation, coldly waving his right arm. A bodyguard gets the signal, instantly raising his weapon and firing a perfect shot. With a loud bang, the bullet tears right through Tiger's knee, sending him screaming to his joints on the floor. The security team swarms the place like a pack of wolves, pinning a struggling Tiger to the ground instantly. With trembling hands and bloodshot eyes, Ethan rushes to Amber's side, desperately cutting her loose. Looking at his bruised, unconscious wife, Ethan pulls her tightly into his arms, tears streaming down his face. "Don't be scared, baby," he whispers in despair. "I am taking you home." His assistant steps up, respectfully asking what to do with the groaning Tiger on the floor. Ethan slowly turns his head, the humanity completely gone from his eyes, leaving only pure madness and vengeance. He grinds out the words through his teeth. "Hand him over to the feds, make sure he gets maximum security, and let him rot in a cell for the rest of his miserable life." Without a second thought, the guards drag the thug away like trash, leaving him to face the full weight of the law. Later, Amber is rushed back to the Gray family mansion. Inside a massive, quiet bedroom, she lies in bed with a thick bandage wrapped around her head, looking incredibly pale. Arthur, Brandon, and Ethan surround the doctor, their faces filled with anxiety. After checking her vitals, the doctor turns to the family, letting them know that despite the head trauma, she is officially out of danger. Hearing this, the billionaire father Arthur still can't relax, asking why she hasn't woken up yet, and if there will be brain damage. The doctor looks concerned, stating that everything depends on her recovery over the next few hours. Knowing she is stable but still unconscious, Ethan and Brandon are consumed by pure guilt and agony by the bed. On set, everyone steps out, the room goes completely dead silent. Ethan sits by the bed, looking totally broken. With trembling hands, he holds Amber's small hand, the one with her favorite butterfly bracelet, and presses it against his cheek. Looking at his lifeless wife, the ruthless CEO completely breaks down, his tears overflowing. He chokes up, repeatedly apologizing to Amber, calling himself a complete idiot for doubting her over those stupid fake rumors. He begs her from the bedside, telling her she can punish him however she wants as long as she opens her eyes. Holding her hand tight, he whispers with deep love and regret, "Amber, please wake up. I still owe you the biggest, most beautiful wedding the world has ever seen." Meanwhile, in the glamorous living room, Arthur is absolute furious over what happened to his daughter. He slams his hand onto the massive wooden desk, creating a loud echo, screaming at Brandon. "Those trash media outlets went way too far. How dare they use those filthy words against my daughter?" Brandon drops his head in deep regret, explaining he was only trying to keep her identity a secret to protect her. He never expected a snake like Scarlet to use such disgusting tactics to fake an affair and cause a kidnapping. Arthur makes the final call with absolute authority. "Forget the secrecy. I am calling a massive press conference tomorrow to confirm her identity. The whole world will know Amber is my only daughter, the princess of the Gray family. Anyone who hurt or cyberbullied her will face the full power of the Gray Empire. I will hunt them down. Go get some sleep, man. If you crash, who is going to take care of Amber?" In the room, Amber lies weak in bed, her head wrapped in thick gauze, her face pale as snow. By the bedside, Ethan is completely exhausted, his eyes bloodshot from watching over her without a second of sleep. Brandon feels for him, stepping up to tell him to take a break. Right then, an unconscious Amber seems to sink into a terrifying nightmare, clutching the blankets in pure agony as she mutters, "Sister, sister, don't leave me behind. I want to go home. Don't grab me. Stop. Ah." Amber snaps her eyes open with a sharp scream, sitting straight up in bed. Ethan and Brandon jump, and Ethan immediately leans over, wrapping his arms tightly around her. "Amber, Amber, you are awake. Don't be scared. It is me. It is Ethan." He soothes her softly. Arthur rushes in, sweating from panic, his voice shaking as he tries to calm her down. "Don't worry, sweetie. Daddy's right here. Tell me, does it hurt anywhere? I'll get the doctor right now." Amber gasps for air, the terror in her eyes slowly fading as she focuses on her father and her husband. Tears instantly flood her eyes, her voice weak but filled with absolute certainty as she speaks every single word clearly. "I remember, Dad, Ethan. I remember everything that happened back then, that year, at the train station. The person who intentionally abandoned me and left me to die. It was Scarlett. She did this to me." Hearing that name, Arthur looks like he just got struck by lightning, freezing completely in place. The truth is finally out, the fake mask completely ripped away. Realizing he spent years taking care of the monster who destroyed his real daughter's life, the billionaire dad breaks down completely. He tightly hugs a crying Amber, punching his own chest in absolute agony and regret. "It is all my fault. I brought a wolf into our home. I was a terrible father. I failed my wife, my family, and my little girl." Watching the father and daughter cry in each other's arms, the warmth in Ethan's eyes vanishes, replaced by a terrifying lethal chill. He holds a shaking Amber close, his eyes sharp as a blade as he delivers a final verdict to Arthur. "Don't worry, Dad. I am going to settle every single debt with her. Old and new Scarlett is not getting away this time." After the storm comes the most beautiful rainbow. The scene cuts to the most exclusive, high-end luxury wedding in the city. White flowers cover the entire venue as romantic music fills the air. On stage, Amber stands in a priceless, breathtaking bridal gown, a diamond tiara resting on her head, looking like an absolute angel. Ethan stands in a sharp, tailored suit, his eyes filled with pure devotion as he stares at his beautiful wife. The officiant holds the microphone, delivering the vows in a solemn, beautiful tone. "Ethan Hunt, do you take Amber Gray to be your lawfully wedded wife, to love and cherish her in sickness and in health, for richer or for poorer, as long as you both shall live?" Ethan looks at Amber, his eyes burning with absolute certainty as he says loudly, "I do." The officiant smiles and turns to her. "Amber Gray, do you take Ethan Hunt to be your lawfully wedded husband, to walk by his side through good times and bad, never to part?" Amber looks at the man who went from a blind date to a whirlwind marriage, the man who risked his life to save her in her darkest hours. With tears of joy shining in her eyes, she calls out happily, "I do." The crowd erupts into a massive round of applause as they are officially declared husband and wife. During the toast, her father Arthur walks up to them with a glass of champagne, looking at his daughter in her wedding dress with pure pride and bittersweet emotion. He gently pats Ethan's shoulder, giving him a heartfelt warning. "Ethan, Amber is my only little girl. You better never mistreat her. If the day ever comes, if you ever find yourself falling out of love with her, just bring her back to me in one piece." Amber smiles, leaning into Ethan's side, while Ethan nods with absolute sincerity, promising he will spend his entire life making her happy. Everyone is soaked in happiness except for her greedy former adoptive mother who tries to nag Ethan about the wedding expenses. Amber just rolls her eyes playfully, ignoring the noise. But at the exact final moment of the night, a true miracle happens. The grand doors of the hall slowly push open. Arthur turns around, his voice shaking with pure emotion as he calls out softly, "Amber." Amber and Ethan turn around, in surprise, seeing a beautiful woman in an elegant royal blue gown standing at the entrance, holding a bouquet of flowers with tears in her eyes. It is none other than Amber's biological mother, Mrs. Gray. Having her real daughter back and being surrounded by love finally cured her severe trauma, bringing her sanity completely back. Seeing her mother completely lucid, Amber gasps, covering her mouth. She lifts the heavy skirt of her wedding dress and takes off running toward her mother like a bird flying home. Under the tearful eyes of every guest in the room, the mother and daughter, separated for over a decade, collide into a massive, desperate hug right in the middle of the aisle. Mrs. Gray holds her long-lost daughter, crying her eyes out while Amber buries her face in her mother's shoulder, finally feeling the maternal love she missed for years. The true princess of the billionaire empire, after surviving endless lies and hardships, finally healed her mother, won her true love, and found her perfect, ultimate happy ending. The plane was just about to take off, but a massive fight broke out in first class. The captain looked furious. He called over a few security guards. They started dragging a young man named Carter out. Carter fought back with everything he had. He screamed at the passengers, "Believe me, just believe me once." But everyone just stared at him coldly. Right before he was thrown out the door, Harper, the CEO of the Harper Group, stood up. "Wait," she shouted. Everyone looked at her in shock. She said she believed Carter, and she was getting off the plane too. Carter looked at her with mixed emotions. He realized she was the only person on board without a floating number above her head. He sighed. "You're really not meant to die today." Seeing someone actually follow him, the other passengers didn't get worried. They just burst out laughing. Some mocked Harper for being a fool for believing such nonsense. But Harper stayed completely calm. "Better safe than sorry," she said quietly. She even urged the crew to cancel the flight. This infuriated a guy wearing an eye mask nearby. He started cursing at her, telling her to get lost with him. The captain coldly stated the flight wouldn't be canceled. Once Harper confirmed she was leaving, the captain ordered guards to take them to airport security. Carter was being marched out with his hands pinned back. He was still screaming in pure desperation, "Don't fly. You seriously can't fly." Why was Carter acting so crazy? It all started on his way to the airport. He was walking down the street and witnessed a horrific car accident. A man was lying on the crosswalk, bleeding heavily. Right before the crash happened, Carter was shocked to see something impossible. A glowing red number, lean, appeared over the man's head. Still shaken up, he boarded flight leaning Joba. And then, things got even weirder. The flight attendant greeting people had one too. A glowing red eating right above her head. Carter tried to warn her. He told her she had 0 days left to live. She thought it was just a bad joke and politely asked him to take his seat. But when Carter walked into the cabin and looked around, he completely lost it, whether it was people putting away luggage or an old man resting his eyes. Every single person in that cabin had a bright red lean floating above their head. It matched what the guide in his dream told him. The number shows exactly how many days you have left. Everyone was at 0, which meant this plane was going to crash and no one would survive. Carter's hair stood on end. He started screaming in the aisle, trying desperately to stop the takeoff, but to everyone else he was just a lunatic. The crew blamed him for causing a panic. The passengers started complaining loudly, especially that guy in the eye mask. He was already stressed about a business trip and started cursing Carter out. Carter snapped and said he wouldn't leave until they grounded the plane. That brought out the captain. The captain demanded proof, but Carter was just an ordinary guy. How could he provide physical proof? He just pointed to his eyes and swore it was real. But in a world built on science, his warning only got him kicked out. The whole cabin chanted, "Get out, get off." Finally, they threw him off the plane like a madman. Outside the airport, the flight took off on time. Harper walked ahead, rolling her suitcase. Carter followed her, feeling helpless and guilty. He asked her why she gave up her trip for him. Harper turned around. She admitted she only believed him a little bit, but she had seen things science couldn't explain. Even a 1 in 8 million chance is absolute certainty. If it actually happens to you, they watched the plane fade into the night sky, and Carter could only pray. But some things are meant to happen. Cruising at 30,000 feet, the passengers who kicked Carter off were laughing. They were making bets about him, calling him a psycho who escaped from an asylum. Then, a loud snap echoed. The cockpit instruments flashed bright red. The screens went completely black. No signal. Seconds later, an engine failed. The plane began to violently shudder. Sparks flew everywhere. The pilots screamed into their headsets, "Mayday, Mayday," but it was already too late. Soon news of the crash reached the ground. Carter and Harper were sitting in a luxury car. Harper was visibly shaken. She couldn't believe the tragedy actually happened. Carter stared out the window, feeling sick. He didn't understand how he got this power, this terrifying ability to see death countdowns, because he knew about the crash beforehand. Airport security detained him immediately. They put him in an interrogation room for questioning. He had to sign a statement, dated September 18, 2024. Once they cleared him of any involvement, they finally let him go, but Carter's life as a Grim Reaper had just begun. He was driving down the street with Harper. He glanced out the window, and his entire body froze. By the side of the road, a woman in black was walking by with her hands on her hips. It was Lily, his ex-Jan girlfriend. What terrified him even more was the number flashing above her head, a bright, piercing red E. It meant she only had 1 day left. She was going to die tomorrow. Carter didn't hesitate for a second. He threw the car door open and ran to her. He blocked her path. Lily looked at him with pure disgust. She mocked him for stalking her after the breakup. She even pointed at Harper in the car, laughing that he found a new sugar mommy so fast. Carter didn't care about the relationship drama. He stared directly at that red Yee. His face went pale as he warned her, "You're going to die tomorrow." Lily's smile completely vanished. Carter rushed forward to stop her. He grabbed her arm tightly. "I'm just trying to save your life," he yelled. But Lily didn't believe a word. She thought he was just cursing her out. Enraged, she slapped him across the face and walked away without looking back. Harper pulled Carter back to calm him down. "If you talk to people like that, they'll think you're crazy," she said. "She might even call the cops on you. Since she is safe today, let's figure out a way to change her plans tomorrow. That is how we change her fate." Lily went home furious. She immediately called her best friend, Chloe. She complained about how crazy Carter was acting. Lily mentioned she was supposed to go on a trip tomorrow with a guy named Brandon who was pursuing her. The twisted Chloe heard this and saw an opportunity. She pretended to care and told Lily to cancel the trip. Chloe claims she set up a dinner date instead with the guy Lily had a huge crush on. Innocent Lily fell for it and happily agreed. But after hanging up the phone, a cold, sinister smile crept onto Chloe's face, and inside Chloe's closet, a creepy man in black was hiding. This was a massive setup against Lily to change Lily's plans. Carter and Harper went to Chloe's place in the middle of the night. Seeing them show up uninvited, Chloe was incredibly rude and tried to kick them out. Without saying a word, Harper slammed down 10 grand in cash. Chloe's eyes lit up instantly. Harper kept tossing down stacks of bills. She offered one simple condition: make sure Lily doesn't go on that trip tomorrow, and it is all yours. Driven by pure greed, Chloe flipped sides immediately. She promised she would keep Lily home. The next morning at 10 o'clock, Lily woke up and got a call from Brandon. He was asking if she was ready to go. Following the plan with her friend, Lily lied. She said something came up and she couldn't make it. Disappointed, Brandon drove off alone. On his way, Brandon got into a horrific accident. His car plunged off a 300-foot cliff. He died on impact. Chloe called Carter in a complete panic. Brandon drove off a cliff, she sobbed, trembling. Lily stayed home, so she is safe. How did you guys know his car would crash? Carter and Harper exchanged a worried look. Even though Lily avoided the crash, Carter had a bad gut feeling. They immediately drove over to Lily's apartment. Meanwhile, Lily was at home. She changed into a black dress to meet her crush. A real threat wasn't the car accident. It was the killer standing inside her apartment right now. Can fate really be rewritten just by changing plans? Carter and Harper hurried over to find Lily, but the moment they saw her, Carter's face dropped. He stared at the top of Lily's head. His voice shook as he spoke to Harper. "Her number just hit 0, Harper gasped, her face turning white. "How is that possible?" she asked. "She changed her plans. Her fate should be different." Carter shook his head in agony. "I don't know, but it says 0. Lily just stood there, thinking they were both insane. She screamed at them for ruining her day. She pointed at Carter and cursed him. "I hope you go straight to hell," seeing Lily lose control. Harper rushed over to hold her back. She tried desperately to explain. She told her Carter would never say this for no reason. "You were supposed to be in Brandon's car today," Harper cried. "He got into a fatal accident on the highway. If we hadn't stopped you, you'd be dead right now." Hearing the news, Lily froze. She was completely stunned. Once the reality set in, panic took over. Lily grabbed her phone with shaking hands. She dialed Zoyoyal without wasting a second. Carter's final warning kept echoing in her mind. Even if you dodge the crash, you're still in danger. If the number hits 0, you die today. To stay alive, Lily started locking down her apartment. She unplugged the hairdryer to avoid getting shocked. She wrapped herself tightly in blankets on the bed. She even covered her mouth to stay completely silent. Her eyes were filled with pure terror, but she had no idea the danger was already inside. Her friend had previously given her a teddy bear. It had a hidden nanny cam inside that linked to her phone. Terrified, Lily opened the app to check the feed. What she saw became her worst nightmare. On the screen, a man in a black hoodie and a mask was quietly stepping out of her closet. Lily tried to turn around and scream, but the killer lunged onto the bed and covered her mouth. Lily fought back with everything she had, but she was no match for his strength. The killer drew a sharp blade and plunged it into her. After a brief, desperate struggle, Lily went completely limp on the bed. Blood poured from her mouth and neck. She was gone. The killer quickly wiped down the scene and slipped away without a trace outside the door. Carter was slamming his fist against apartment Joding Yao. He kept shouting for Lily to open up. Harper stood nearby with her arms crossed. She sighed and told him to wait downstairs. As they sat on a bench outside the building, the killer walked right past them. His head was down, his hood pulled low. Carter watched his hurried pace and frowned. "Something feels off about that guy," he muttered. By the time they realized what happened and kicked the door open, it was already too late. Lily was lying on the bed, covered in blood, not breathing. Harper covered her mouth in horror. Carter dropped to his knees, grabbing his head. He sobbed uncontrollably. He couldn't understand it. They changed her plans. Why couldn't he save her? The killer was caught shortly after, but inside the gloomy interrogation room, the detective shattered Carter's remaining hope. The officer took notes and spoke with a cold, professional tone. "We've closed the investigation on Lily's murder. As for your claims about predicting it, or numbers floating above her head, none of that is admissible in a court of law. So I need you to stay grounded in reality." Carter listened blankly, feeling completely empty inside. The ride back in the luxury sedan was dead silent. Carter leaned his head against the window, sinking deep into guilt and despair. "I'm so useless," he whispered. "I knew what was coming and I still couldn't stop it." Harper looked at him with sympathy and spoke softly. "Don't blame yourself. Maybe her death was always meant to happen. No matter how hard you tried to change her schedule, the ending stays the same." Hearing this, Carter finally snapped. He clutched his hair and screamed in agony. "If nothing can be changed, why do I have to see these numbers? Do you have any idea how terrifying this is?" Harper felt his pain. She reached out and held his hand tightly, trying to give him whatever strength she had left. Carter slowly raised his head through his tears, but when he looked at Harper, his heart stopped. Through a blurry red haze above Harper's previously clear head, a piercing red number slowly began to form. It was a Sunday 3-day countdown to her death. Carter froze in absolute terror, staring at the number in utter despair. Late at night, Harper walked downstairs. She was wearing a pink slip dress, looking deeply worried. Her husband Thomas's words kept echoing in her mind. They were at dinner a few days ago. He was smiling warmly, using his gentlest voice. "Honey, the J8 is our anniversary. I'm taking you hiking up Mount Rainier. I have a huge surprise for you. After that, our lives will completely start over." What should have sounded romantic now felt like a chilling threat. The scene shifted to a dimly lit bar. Harper sat there feeling completely lost. Carter leaned in close, his voice tense as he delivered the news. Her number was down to 10. She only had 3 days left to live. Harper wanted to give up and just go home, but Carter grabbed her arms, telling her not to quit. If they prepared for it, they could beat fate. To find out what was really going on, Harper called Secretary Miller from her car. She demanded to know where Thomas had been lately. The results came back quickly, and they hit her like a truck. Thomas was still hitting the underground casinos. He had lost a massive amount of money. Even worse, he had been acting strange lately. He kept visiting 2 specific places. One was Mount Rainier, where he planned to take her. He had gone up there alone 5 times recently. The other place was a law firm. He was asking questions about marital inheritance laws. The truth hit Harper all at once. She sank into a corner, pulling her knees to her chest. She wept in total despair. The husband who promised a surprise and a fresh start was secretly planning her perfect murder. Back at the house, the couple sat in the living room. Thomas smiled as he peeled an apple for her. He kept spinning his lies, claiming he finally quit gambling for good, promising he'd never ask her for another dime, that he was going to work hard and start over. Harper stared at her hypocritical husband. She mentioned calmly that someone saw him up on Mount Rainier. Thomas froze for a split second. Panic flashed in his eyes. He asked if she was spying on him. Then he gave a forced explanation. He said he just wanted to scout the trail, to make sure everything was perfect for their trip. Harper let out a cold laugh, staring right through him. You were just looking for the best spot to push me off, weren't you? But greed doesn't stop easily. A few days later, Secretary Miller called Thomas in a panic. She had shocking news. Flight Leaning Joba, the plane Harper was supposed to take, had crashed. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Hearing this, a look of pure joy washed over Thomas's face. He stood up and cheered. Perfect. Even God is on my side. I don't even have to lift a finger. He walked toward the front door, ready to celebrate his newfound wealth. Suddenly, his phone rang loudly. The caller ID showed wife. He answered, and Harper's calm voice came through. Hey babe, I actually got off the plane last minute. I was helping security with an investigation. My phone was off. Thomas's smile completely vanished. His joy turned into pure rage and hatred. He slammed the phone down and screamed at the empty room. His eyes flashed with murderous intent. Harper, you brought this on yourself, he growled. With his plan ruined, Thomas dropped the act entirely in the middle of the living room. To brandish the green Zan-handled paring knife at Harper, he yelled like a lunatic. You drove me to this. We're married. You have all this money. Why won't you share it? Do you have any idea how miserable I am as your husband? Faced with the blade, Harper didn't back down. Tears welled in her eyes as she yelled back, telling him that gambling had turned him into a monster. Thomas waved the knife, threatening her. Give me one more payout and I'll grant you a divorce. But Harper gave him a firm answer. You won't get a single penny. Pushed to the brink, Thomas raised the knife high. Harper stepped forward, showing zero fear. At the very last second, Thomas lost his nerve. He slammed the knife onto the table in frustration. Just you wait, he snarled, before storming out. Watching him leave, Harper collapsed onto the sofa, sobbing from the shock. Then her phone rang again. It was Carter. Harper, I figured out how to beat the countdown, he said urgently. I found a spiritual master who deals with this stuff. I'm sending you a location. Get over here right now. That call was her final lifeline. The night was pitch black. Harper followed the GPS into a creepy alley called Spook Lane. It was completely dark, save for the eerie glow of red lanterns. She clutched her clothes in fear. Suddenly, Carter appeared and took her hand. Seeing how shaken she was, he spoke softly. It is okay. I've got you. Holding hands in the dark alleyway, they walked deeper into the shadows, ready to face their final judgment. His teeth in anger, wanting to gather evidence and throw the criminal in jail. But Chloe just shook her head. She only had 3 days left to live and refused to waste her final moments on him. Still heavy-hearted, she squeezed Cole's hand, begging him to climb Mount Rainier with her one last time on the 9th. Looking at the heartbroken woman, Cole made a silent vow. As long as I am here, I won't let anything happen to you. To break the deadly countdown hanging over Chloe, Cole took her to see Master Hudson, a secluded expert. But inside the dim, candlelit room, Master Hudson poured cold water on their hopes. Cole shouted emotionally, nobody is just going to sacrifice themselves. That's impossible. Chloe also asked anxiously if changing their travel plans before meant anything. Master Hudson calmly moved his beads and asked back, and what was the result? Chloe lowered her head, admitting through her pain, it failed. Master Hudson revealed the brutal truth. The countdown is a curse from fate. If you don't destroy the root cause, even a safe house won't save you. Cole completely broke down, dropping to his knees before Master Hudson and begging frantically, "Please, Master, you have to know a way. She's a good person. She really doesn't deserve to go." Through the Master's heavy words, the only way out was finally revealed. This so-called countdown is actually a malicious curse. To break it, the only way out is for the targeted person to end their current state ahead of time. If a person can end it early on their own terms, the curse will break, creating life from death. Chloe was incredibly sharp and understood Master Hudson instantly. So, if I choose to take matters into my own hands within 3 days, means can I break this impossible trap? Master Hudson looked at her with an unreadable expression and said slowly, exactly. Suddenly, all the broken clues connected in Cole's mind. To break the trap, someone had to make an early sacrifice. Back in reality, the villainous Todd showed up uninvited, boldly walking right into Chloe's house. He even mocked Chloe in front of his ex-girlfriend, Lily, falsely accusing her of bringing men home. Chloe shielded Cole, refusing to waste a single breath on the jerk. Todd grew more aggressive, shouting demands for half her fortune or he would ruin her name. Looking at the greedy monster, a cold light flashed in Cole's eyes. Right above Todd's head, a bright red number 1 was floating in the air. Cole sneered and pointed at him. Todd, look above your head. You have a number 1 right now. That means you only have 1 day left. What good will all that money do you tomorrow? Chloe added her cold judgment. You have a 2, and he has a 1. You are finished tomorrow. Todd was totally set off, grabbing Cole by the collar and roaring, I'll make you disappear first. However, knowing the secret just then, Cole called saying he was waiting downstairs. Chloe lied to him with shifting eyes, telling him to go upstairs and wait for her first. She was going to hide it from Cole and break this deadly cycle her own way. When Chloe opened her front door, Cole was already waiting for her. Cole sharply noticed that the countdown above Chloe's head had turned into a 2. While Cole went to the restroom, the front door was violently kicked open again. The shameless Todd barged back in like a nightmare. He was incredibly arrogant, shoving and cursing at Chloe while pulling out his phone to call a lawyer, vowing to take every penny. Looking at her husband who had lost his humanity for money, Chloe stood in the living room and smiled coldly. She crossed her arms, stared directly at Todd and said clearly, you want the money, I can give you all of it, 100%, down to the last dime, but you have to agree to one condition. Todd was blinded by the massive wealth and demanded to know the condition. Chloe's eyes went ice cold as she delivered her final sentence. Jump off the 18th floor of my company building. If you survive the fall, all the money is yours. Think about it carefully. Even if you don't jump today, your countdown is up anyway. You are gone tomorrow either way. Knowing the truth of his fate and facing the temptation of billions, Todd went completely wild. His face twisted in rage as he screamed at Chloe, "Do you think I am an idiot?" With a flash of fury, Chloe used her fortune as bait, smiling as she trapped the monster who wanted her gone. If fate requires someone to leave early to break the curse, then it might as well be you. In the living room, Cole was holding a green-handled knife, highly emotional. Chloe cried out, holding his arm tightly, "Cole, don't be reckless." Chloe knew she didn't have much time left anyway. She didn't want Cole to ruin his life or live with guilt over a piece of trash like her husband. Seeing Cole held back, Todd became arrogant again. He laughed and mocked Cole for being a coward who didn't dare to move. Chloe looked at him coldly and called him by his full name. "Todd, you want the money, right? If you can make it through tomorrow, I'll take you to transfer 50% of the estate first thing the next morning." Hearing this, the greedy Todd's eyes lit up, and he agreed immediately. He snorted, said, "Just you wait," and slammed the door as he left. But he had no idea his time was already. To save his skin, Todd had begged through his tears just like this, "Brad, my wife is loaded. Just give me 2 days. I'll pay you back double. If I don't, you can ruin me." But the ruthless Brad wasn't buying it. Smoking a cigar, he put the final pressure on Todd. "I'll give you exactly 1 more day. If I don't see the money tomorrow, I will hunt you down and take what is left of you apart." Back in the present, Chloe and Cole were sitting in the car. Just then, Chloe's secretary called with a shocking initial report. The secretary sighed and said, "Chloe, Todd passed away in a car accident. According to the investigation, he actually hired a truck to hit you, but he wasn't careful and got hit by a car from the side of the road instead. He died on the spot." Hearing this, Chloe didn't know whether to feel relieved or mocked. This twisted monster was planning to hurt her until his very last breath, only to bring about his own end. But when Chloe looked up at the rearview mirror, she froze instantly. The countdown above her head hadn't disappeared with Todd's death. It had turned into a cold 1. She had exactly 1 day left. Cole looked at the despairing Chloe, gripped her shoulders, and spoke with absolute certainty. "Don't give up. I will find a way." Cole made a silent promise to himself. Through these days of surviving together, he realized he had fallen for this fragile yet strong girl. He absolutely could not watch her slip away. No way. As the car passed through a neighborhood, Cole suddenly noticed a short-haired teenager in a blue shirt. A flashing red number 0 was shining right above his head. That meant the boy was going to face a disaster today. And now my girlfriend ran off with someone else. Chloe felt for him deeply, gently comforting him and telling him there was always hope. Chloe even offered him a job at her company, promising to take care of everything with just one rule: never think about ending things again. Kai listened, his eyes finally lighting up as he agreed repeatedly. Cole finally showed a relieved smile as well, but right in that warm moment, Cole's body suddenly went stiff, and he broke into a violent cough, closing his eyes in pain. Chloe whispered in fear beside him, "The numbers you see are just the set results. No matter how we help him or try to change his life, once today ends, he still can't escape his fate." Time ticked away, and the tense air in the dark hotel room was suffocating. Cole and Chloe kept their heads down, staring at their watches as every second felt like torture. With just a few hours left before the midnight deadline, Kai suddenly gripped his chest in pain and stood up from the couch. A sharp Cole leaped up and held him back. "What are you doing?" Kai's face was pale as he begged, saying he really couldn't hold it and needed the restroom. Cole instinctively wanted to refuse, but seeing how desperate the boy was, he finally let go and followed him closely to the restroom door. Cole could guard against accidents, but he couldn't guard a heart that had already given up. Inside the restroom, Kai walked slowly to the mirror and washed his hands. He then took off a black heart-shaped pendant from his neck, tracing it with deep regret. But a second later, the 19-year-old turned around, grabbed a pen in a dark corner, and quickly wrote a final note on a piece of paper by the dim light. Meanwhile, in the living room, Cole sat down next to Chloe, completely exhausted. With red eyes, Chloe told Cole that her final arrangements were already placed in her room drawer. Aside from the charity donations, a small portion had been given to her family. Heartbroken, Cole cut her off, holding her shoulders. "Don't talk like that. Just a few more hours. If we make it through safely, the curse breaks and you'll be completely fine." After an unknown amount of time, Cole suddenly snapped awake in the living room. He checked his watch and shouted to Chloe in panic, "It's been so long. Why hasn't he come out?" Alarm bells went off in Chloe's mind, and she urged Cole to check. Cole rushed to the door, banging frantically and shouting Kai's name. But the moment he kicked the door open, the heartbreaking sight inside shattered their minds. Kai lay against the bathroom wall, his eyes closed and completely lifeless. There was shocking blood on his lips and his white collar. Before Cole could reach him, Kai's body slumped down the wall, falling heavily onto the cold floor. With bloodshot eyes, Cole rushed forward and pulled the 19-year-old boy into his arms, desperately checking his pulse with a shaking hand. But Kai was already gone, his stiff hand still tightly holding an empty small pill packet. Looking at the white powder scattered on the floor, Chloe covered her mouth, crying out in terror. What did he take? In absolute agony, Cole held his head and screamed in despair on the floor. Just then, Chloe noticed the handwritten note left by Kai on the counter. With trembling hands, she unfolded the paper, revealing the boy's final words. Looking at the note, Cole sank into absolute darkness. Hearing these grateful yet tragic words, Cole covered his face tightly, tears streaming through his fingers. Back at the diner, Kai had complained about life being meaningless, and now Cole could only scream in his heart. He was only 19. He was only 19, but no matter the heartbreak, cruel reality crushed everything. Master Hudson had already pointed out the ultimate paradox of escaping death. The countdown is a punishment from fate, and to break the curse, the target must end their state ahead of time. The brilliant Chloe saw right through this. To save Cole and herself, she had gone back to her room earlier, pulled a heavy envelope from her drawer, and handed it to Cole, telling him it held her assets and final wishes. At the time, Cole had pushed the envelope away angrily, shouting, "I am not taking it. Nothing will happen to you. I will protect you." Back in the cold, desperate car, fate played its final cruel joke. With bloodshot eyes, Cole used his last bit of strength to grab Chloe's hands, pressing them tightly into his own. He tried frantically to comfort her, telling her not to overthink and to accept his mother's bracelet. But the moment Cole turned his head to look at Chloe through his tears, amidst the blurry share is about to strike this plant. Get everyone out now. Mr. Duncan sneered with contempt, stating that security just reported everything was fine, demanding Cole show some real proof. With no other choice, Cole completely lost his temper, slamming the desk and roaring, "I am the proof. If I say it is going to blow, it is going to blow." This wild statement only made Mr. Duncan more certain that they were just troublemakers. At the final second, Chloe pulled Cole back, calmly pulled out an ID from her bag and tossed it in front of Mr. Duncan. She spoke deliberately. "Look closely. I am Chloe, chairwoman of the Chloe Group, worth billions. Do you really think I would risk my reputation and over 1,000 lives just to fool around with you?" Seeing the true identity of a billionaire CEO, Mr. Duncan was completely stunned. Chloe then dropped a bombshell. The flight that crashed a few days ago, he and I were the only survivors because we foresaw the disaster and canceled our trip. While Mr. Duncan was left speechless by her words, the phone on his desk suddenly rang frantically. She slowly pulled out a bottle of medication meant to cause a temporary state of suspended animation. In truth, she had already figured out the cruel rule to break the final day's trap. One of them had to take a risk early on, using one person's sacrifice to buy safety for the other, and the entire plant. Chloe looked in the direction Cole had gone, tears falling uncontrollably. She gripped the bottle tightly, whispering in her heart, "Cole, how could I just watch you step into danger? I've already settled all my affairs. If only I had met you a few years earlier. This time, let me take the first step." To protect Cole, the girl who loved him deeply decided to risk her own safety to give him a miracle. In the game of fate, we think we are the players, but in the end, we are just the pieces being moved. Inside the car at night, Chloe stared out the window with deep anxiety. Cole had been inside for a very long time and still hadn't come out. Anxious, she pulled out her phone to call him, but only received a cold automated voicemail saying the phone was off. Chloe's heart jumped into her throat, and Cole's final words flashed through her mind. Cole had gripped her shoulders tightly, saying clearly, "Chloe, I won't let anything happen to you." Even though the work with a strange sound inside the quiet room of a funeral home, a masked worker slowly rolled in a cart covered with a white sheet. Suddenly, the worker heard a rustling sound in the empty room. Terrified, he called out into the space, "What's that sound? Don't mess with me. I scare easily." But a second later, right before his eyes, a foot moved beneath a white sheet on a nearby table. Then, the lifeless body suddenly sat straight up. The worker lost his mind with fear, screaming as he bolted out the front door. The person sitting up from under the sheet was Cole. His face was deathly pale, and he gasped for air. When he turned and saw the sign on the wall, he froze in utter shock, shouting, "Where on earth am I? What exactly happened?" To save Chloe from fate, Cole had gone with her to visit Master Hudson, the secluded expert. In the candlelit dark room, Master Hudson told them that to break the countdown, the target had to change their state ahead of time. Old texts recorded a rare plant root that could put a person into a temporary state of fake death. Taking just a small amount would stop the heart and breathing, removing all signs of life, but the person would surely wake up within a day. To create life from death, Cole had swallowed the mixture in the woods, but he never expected that Chloe would have no idea. When she found Cole lifeless in the woods, her heart broke completely. She frantically rushed him to the hospital, but when the emergency room doors opened, the doctor could only give her the worst news. Chloe wept all the way as Cole was taken to the facility, and Cole actually managed to wake up right there inside the room. The reason Cole chose this dangerous path was because he knew both his and Chloe's time was running out today. Before coming to the plant, Cole saw the number 1 appear above his own head and made his final preparations. To fulfill his mother's long-held wish to see him settled, he kept the truth from her and brought Chloe home to meet his parents. He gave his mother a bank card and even knelt knelt on the floor to give her a deep bow, saying his final goodbye. Though his mother felt he was acting strange, she was thrilled to take Chloe's hand and slide her family heirloom green jade bracelet onto Chloe's wrist. Eating his mother's home-cooked meal and listening to her talk about the future, Cole felt an unbearable ache in his heart. But Chloe's words from the diner flashed in his mind. The numbers are just results. Cole suddenly woke up to the truth. The workers were safe, but the explosion never happened. If they did nothing, the curse remained unbroken. And once midnight struck, the wheels of fate would still crush them. So Cole forced a sum of money into his mother's hands, pulled Chloe out the door, and took the medication alone to trick fate by replacing the plant disaster with his own fake end. Back in the present restroom, the awakened Cole sat weakly on the floor next to Chloe, holding his head in agony. He believed his plan had failed because he had just checked and found the factory completely untouched. But fate is always unpredictable. When the two young people walked back to the plant gates in despair, they ran right into a furious Mr. Duncan. The moment he saw them, he pointed at their faces and cursed, demanding to know why they lied to him, causing a shutdown and massive financial loss. The guard next to him shouted along, saying the day was almost over, and the plant was perfectly fine. Faced with the harsh yelling, Cole and Chloe looked at each other, their eyes turning red. Instead of getting angry, they let out relieved, grateful smiles. Cole said sincerely, "I am just glad everyone is safe," and Chloe promised to pay back double for tomorrow's losses. Looking at the angry manager, the two young people who had just walked the edge of life embraced tightly at the gates. Everyone survived with 0 injuries, meaning Master Hudson's method worked. They had won, and the curse was broken. A bright, blinding red light flashed in the empty space right above his reflection. Slowly and irreversibly, a massive, terrifying number formed. 0. Looking at the number 0 above his head in the mirror, Cole's smile froze instantly. He stared with wide, unbelievable eyes, his gaze filled with endless fear and total despair. Tricking fate was never an option. The curse was indeed broken. Chloe could never have guessed. Her own mother would force her into marriage, just to save her stepfather's failing little company. She was arranged to marry Silas, a billionaire heir, a man rumored to be on his deathbed. When Chloe cried and refused, her mother hit her. She even went on a hunger strike to threaten her. "Marry him or you are dead to me," her mother said. Seeing her mother risk her life for an outsider, Chloe felt completely heartbroken. She signed the marriage contract with tears in her eyes, but Chloe had no idea about the truth. The stepfather her mother called kind was a monster. The night Chloe finally agreed to the marriage, he secretly drugged her drink. He sneaked into her bedroom while she slept. At the last second, Chloe woke up dazed. She fought back with everything she had. She grabbed a wine bottle and smashed it over his head. The bottle shattered, leaving him bleeding heavily. The stepfather tore off his mask and lunged at her. Chloe grabbed a paring knife to defend herself. She slashed him again during the violent struggle. Terrified and shaken, she fled into the night. Running onto the dark streets in her nightgown, she used her last bit of strength to stop a luxury car. Then she collapsed onto the freezing pavement. The owner of that car was none other than Silas, the mysterious billionaire CEO she was about to marry. Silas got out to check on her before he could take her to the hospital. The bleeding stepfather caught up with them. He began spinning lies to cover his tracks, claiming Chloe was his mentally ill daughter, that she had lost her mind and attacked them. Silas grew suspicious of the man's story. Just then, Chloe weakly whispered, "Save me." Silas made a quick decision on the spot. He refused to let the man take her. He coldly stated they would wait for the police. Guilty and panicked, the stepfather tried to grab her, but Silas's guards pinned him down instantly. Chloe was safely brought into the car. On the drive back, a unique scent filled the cabin. It was a rare fragrance coming from her. Incredibly, Silas's sense of smell returned, an ability he had lost many years ago. Looking at the beautiful girl beside him, Chloe was burning up from the drugs and leaned in. Inside the private space of the luxury car, nature took its course, and they spent the night together. The next morning, Chloe woke up in a hotel, looking at the messy sheets. She felt a bit down, but she was glad she escaped that monster. She swore to go home and expose him, but reality dealt her a devastating blow. When she told her mother what happened, her stubborn mother refused to believe a word. Instead, she blamed Chloe for being unfaithful, accusing her of throwing mud at her elders. The stepfather played along, acting forgiving, which made the mother pity him even more. Finally, her mother threatened her life again, forcing Chloe back into her wedding dress. On the wedding day, Chloe felt like a puppet. Her mother kept whispering warnings in her ear. Chloe coldly said this was her last time obeying. As the bridal veil fell over her face, she walked toward an uncertain future. On their wedding night, the groom lifted the veil. Chloe couldn't stop her tears of frustration. The man looked at her with an amused smile. He asked why she was afraid to look at him. Chloe pulled away from his touch. Suddenly, the groom began coughing violently. He looked incredibly weak and fragile. Chloe felt a pang of pity and reached for help. But the man pulled her right back onto the bed. Silas looked at the panicked Chloe and laughed. "Do you really not remember me?" he asked. "We just saw each other at the wedding," Chloe explained. The veil blocked her view, looking at the man who saved her, the man who was now her husband. The hostility in Chloe's eyes began to fade. Silas kept teasing her with a smirk, but the wheels of fate were already turning. Their sweet revenge was just beginning. Shortly after Chloe brought breakfast to the bedroom, her new husband, Silas, was resting in bed. Though he was a powerful billionaire heir, he was known to be incredibly sickly. Silas frowned and whined like a spoiled child, complaining that his meds ruined his appetite. He insisted that Chloe taste the food first. Chloe blinked, feeling a little shy. She asked if he minded sharing the same spoon. Silas suddenly pulled her close with affection. He said a marriage grows by sharing everything. Hearing him call her his wife made her heart race. She took a bite and found the flavor perfect. She gently offered to feed him, but Silas pushed the entire bowl back to her. He urged her to eat it all instead. Chloe was completely confused by his action. If she ate it, what would her sick husband eat? Silas couldn't help but laugh out loud. He told her his family wasn't that poor. As a husband, he couldn't let his wife starve, especially when he heard her stomach growling. Since Silas had a secret medical appointment, Chloe had to visit her family alone, carrying gifts back to that cold house. The moment Chloe walked through the door, there was no warm welcome waiting for her, only cold questions from her mother and stepfather. Hearing that Silas was too sick to come, her mother's face dropped instantly. She blamed them for the wedding drama and for ruining the traditional family visit. Chloe looked at her status-obsessed mother. Her heart went completely cold. "You knew all of this beforehand," Chloe said. "Why are you questioning me now?" Chloe didn't want to argue anymore. She walked alone into her old bedroom. She pushed the door open and found her half-sister. The spoiled Ava was lounging on her bed, holding a medal in her hands. It was the only keepsake from Chloe's late father. Chloe suppressed her rage and told her to drop it, but malicious Ava just let out a cold laugh. She threw the medal straight into the trash. Then she dared Chloe to go pick it up. That action crossed the final line. Chloe rushed forward and grabbed Ava. As Ava screamed and tried to swing at her, Chloe threw her onto the bed with a perfect slam. Ava began cursing at the top of her lungs. Chloe slapped her hard across the face. Then she pinned her down by the throat. Her eyes were terrifyingly cold. "I let things slide before because of your dad," Chloe warned. "Try me again and see what happens. Without your monster father, you are nothing." Just then, her parents burst into the room. Seeing the scene, her mother screamed that Chloe was crazy. Ava immediately switched to her victim mode. She began sobbing loudly, putting on an act, claiming Chloe beat her and tried to choke her. The stepfather stamped his feet in anger. He yelled at Chloe for being vicious, accusing her of taking out her resentment on her sister. Faced with their anger, Chloe didn't flinch. She calmly straightened her clothes and smiled. "Don't be a stranger, stepfather," she said. "Ava used to play jokes like this on me all the time. Now that it is my turn, you can't take it." Her mother was shaking with pure rage. She demanded Chloe get on her knees and apologize. Chloe looked at her mother with pity. She offered a completely fake apology. As Ava kept crying, Chloe's stomach suddenly turned. She covered her mouth and began to gag. Feeling exhausted, she rubbed her temples. "I am tired. Get out," she said, ignoring them all. Seeing her daughter act so rebellious, the mother completely lost her mind. She rushed forward and slapped Chloe hard. The blow was so strong, Chloe's cheek swelled up. Her mother pointed at the front door and screamed, "If you keep this up, never come back." Chloe held her cheek but didn't cry. She gave the house one last cold look. Then she turned and walked away forever. Back in the master bedroom of the estate, Silas was sitting comfortably on the sofa. A traditional doctor finished taking his pulse. He smiled and gave Silas some good news. The toxins in his body were almost gone. Soon his system would be completely clean. It turned out Silas wasn't naturally sick. Someone close to him had been poisoning him. Silas asked if there were any leads on the culprit. The doctor sighed and said he only knew medicine. He advised Silas to find an expert in toxins. After the doctor left, Silas called his butler. He demanded to know where his wife was. The butler hesitated before giving the report. The driver saw Chloe get out of the car halfway. She was crying bitterly on the road, and half of her face was badly swollen. Hearing those words, Silas's eyes turned dark. A murderous aura filled the entire room. He stood up abruptly with a cold expression. "I am going out," he commanded. The man who usually needed help walking now moved like a force of nature. The scene shifted to a classic restaurant. The young couple sat across from each other. Chloe noticed her husband looked much better. She asked if he was feeling healthier. Silas didn't answer right away. He just served her a bowl of hot soup. Chloe felt overwhelmed and tried to decline, saying she should be the one taking care of him. Silas gazed into her eyes with deep affection. He brought up the joke from their wedding night. He said taking care of his wife was his duty. It was a lifetime promise he intended to keep. Faced with his direct confession, Chloe's eyes grew red. She looked down and apologized for her morning mood, promising to learn how to be a good wife. Looking at the stubborn girl, Silas felt a pang of pity. He reached out and gently lifted her chin. His voice turned completely serious. "Now tell me who hit your face." Chloe looked away, trying to brush it off. Silas let out a frustrated sigh. "I guess you still don't trust me as your husband." Seeing she couldn't hide it, Chloe confessed. She admitted she fought with her sister. And then her mother slapped her. Silas frowned deeply, his eyes filled with pain. Chloe looked at the man who cared so much for her. She offered a genuine, relieved smile. "If this was before, I would have endured it for my mom. But now, I am not holding back anymore." Silas blinked and softly asked why. Chloe took a deep breath, her eyes reflecting his face. She tilted her head with a playful but serious look. "Silas, let me ask you something," she whispered. Because Chloe finally knew the truth. She had a husband who would always protect her, a man who would stand by her side through any storm. A few days into the marriage, Chloe was having dinner with her wealthy husband. She looked troubled, clearly wanting to speak. Silas gently asked what was on her mind, but Chloe sighed and decided to drop it for now. After dinner, Silas asked for a cup of coffee. Chloe went to the kitchen to find the beans. As soon as she walked in, a rude maid bumped into her. The maid immediately started talking back, mocking Chloe for having no common sense, accusing her of trying to harm a sick man with caffeine. Chloe's gaze turned icy as she snapped back. "How do you know I forced him?" she asked. "Maybe he wanted it himself." The maid was left completely speechless. Chloe then called the assistant over. She smiled directly at the maid. "Our maid here thinks she is a better fit for my title. Should I just hand my husband over to her?" The maid went pale and accused Chloe of lying. Just then, the eldest sister-in-law, Victoria, walked in. She wore a fake smile and high heels. She pretended to scold the maid for being rude, but every word was a stab at Chloe, hinting that Chloe was power-hungry and petty. But Chloe was no longer a pushover. She smiled and matched Victoria's passive-aggressive tone. "You are so sharp, sister-in-law," Chloe replied. "But I don't throw insults, I just speak the truth." The response humiliated Victoria in front of the staff. Before leaving, Chloe ordered the staff to make the coffee, treating Victoria like she wasn't even there. Meanwhile, the evil stepfather got a terrible shock. The Silas Group suddenly cut off all funding to his firm. He turned pale with fear and stumbled back home. His clueless wife offered him a glass of water. To cover his tracks, the stepfather blamed Chloe. He put on a dramatic show of heartbreak, falsely claiming Chloe sabotaged the deal, that she was whispering lies in Silas's ear. The gullible mother fell for his acting completely, growing furious with her own daughter. On the other side of town, inside a luxury van, the tension between Chloe and Silas was electric. Their faces drifted closer, inches from a kiss. Suddenly, a loud ringtone broke the silence. Silas threw a sharp glare at the rearview mirror, while Chloe turned away, her face blushing red. It was the assistant calling with an update. The scene cut to a spacious conference room. Chloe was fast asleep on the couch nearby. The assistant was revealing the shocking truth to Silas. The stepfather only forced the marriage for the money. Even worse, he had drugged Chloe on the night before the wedding. Chloe only escaped by stabbing him in self-defense, learning about the horrific abuse his wife suffered. Silas's eyes turned colder than ice. He slammed his pen onto the desk in pure rage. "Cancel the entire funding process immediately," he ordered. Then he walked over with a tender look, gently draping his coat over the sleeping Chloe. When they returned to the estate, Victoria blocked Chloe's path in the main lobby, ready to cause more trouble with a fake smile, but Silas slowly walked down the stairs. Victoria panicked slightly at the sight of him. She awkwardly asked why he wasn't in the hospital. Silas let out a cold laugh, stepping in front of Chloe. "If I didn't come down, I wouldn't see this," he said. "I won't let you bully my wife in our own home." Victoria tried to argue that Chloe was disrespectful, but Silas shut her down instantly. He peeled away her fake politeness with sharp words. "If she was sharp, it was self-defense against your malice. Honestly, I think she treated you too well." Silas brought up how Victoria praised Chloe to their mother, accusing her of being a hypocrite. "Watch your step, Victoria," he warned coldly. Back in their room, the sweet moments continued. Sitting on the edge of the bed, Chloe leaned in close. Her beautiful eyes locked onto Silas. Silas smirked, feeling a sudden rush of excitement. "Do you like what you see?" he teased. He slowly closed his eyes, expecting a kiss. Instead, Chloe just blushed and fixed his crooked scarf. The completely innocent move left him disappointed. He could only laugh at himself in his head. With the tension gone, they sat on the sofa. Chloe gently held an ice pack to Silas's face. She softly thanked him for what happened earlier. After a moment, she couldn't help but ask, why did he cut off the funding to her stepfather? Silas set his book down, his gaze intense and steady. He gently lifted her chin with his hand. "Because no one gets to hurt what is mine," he declared. "Without my permission, nobody touches you." Looking into his deep protective eyes, Chloe felt her heart beat wildly for him, but the peace didn't last long. When Chloe arrived at the corporate headquarters, her furious mother was already waiting for her. Without a word, her mother lunged forward and slapped her. The loud crack echoed across the plaza. "How could I raise such a monster?" her mother screamed. "You think because you married rich you can destroy us? You are ruining your stepfather's company." Faced with the false accusation, Chloe's eyes filled with tears, but she fiercely held them back. She looked at the mother who had always used her. "I didn't destroy anything," Chloe yelled back. "You forced me into this marriage with your threats. You two arranged every single bit of this." But the brainwashed mother refused to listen. She kept screaming insults on the public street. Looking at her mother's cold, heartless face, Chloe stood frozen in absolute despair. Later that day, Chloe met her best friend, Sarah. They were sitting in a quiet tea house. Sarah kept glancing at Silas sitting nearby. She eagerly asked when Chloe met such a handsome guy. Chloe looked at Silas, feeling a bit guilty. She lied and said he was just a childhood friend, a friend who just returned from abroad to recover from an illness. Sarah immediately teased her, calling him a secret crush. After chatting, Chloe asked why they were meeting. Sarah remembered the favor and pulled out a thick envelope. She handed it to Chloe with a serious look. She said Chloe's mother had called her, claiming she was sick and needed Sarah to deliver this. Chloe opened the envelope with confusion. Inside was a bank card and a handwritten letter. The scene flashed to the mother in a hospital bed, coughing heavily while writing through her tears. The letter said she finally knew the whole story. She knew she had broken her daughter's heart. She didn't expect forgiveness and told Chloe stay away. But the card held her life savings, a gift for Chloe to protect herself in a wealthy family, so no one could ever look down on her. Learning her mother was truly ill, Chloe felt torn. Just then, Silas stood up and walked over to them. Sarah saw him coming and quickly made an excuse to leave, giving the young couple some privacy. But the moment her friend left, the temperature dropped. Silas blocked Chloe into the corner with a dark expression. His deep eyes showed a flash of jealousy. A childhood friend. friend. Just a companion? He asked coldly. His voice was tight as he leaned in closer. He felt he had been too gentle with her, so gentle that she forgot who he really was to her. Faced with his sudden possessiveness, Chloe felt a bit hurt and flustered. Silas asked bitterly if he was a shameful secret. Chloe explained with tears in her eyes. She said she was just worried her friend couldn't take the news. They had promised to be bridesmaids for each other, and Sarah had no idea she was already married. Hearing her panicked explanation, Silas softened instantly. He let go of her arm with a look of regret. He muttered a quiet apology for being rough. Chloe felt her face flush, but let out a sigh of relief, seeing his wife wasn't truly angry. Silas cracked a joke to lighten the mood, telling her to stop hiding from him in the restroom, since the smell in there wasn't great. But when Chloe finally reached her mother's bedroom, a heavy wave of guilt-tripping was waiting for her. Her mother looked pale and weak on the bed. She grabbed Chloe's hand and spoke with force. The dynamic she called family was just a sacrifice. She told Chloe that her stepfather was facing ruin, and only Chloe's marriage leverage could save them. Looking at Chloe's cold refusal, the mother didn't show an ounce of sympathy. She pushed harder, using a twisted logic. She argued Silas was going to die soon anyway. Chloe wouldn't have to suffer for long. Once the short-lived heir passed away, Chloe would inherit a massive fortune, and she would still have her family as a backup. Hearing her mother view her marriage as a transaction and talk about her husband's death so casually, Chloe ripped her hand away in pure anger. But her mother just called her ungrateful. She claimed she didn't want to marry Chloe's father either, but they ended up perfectly happy anyway. If you feel wronged, go call the cops. Her mother snapped. Chloe looked at the hopeless woman. She felt completely detached and turned to leave, but her mother grabbed her bag tightly, sobbing, blaming her for letting her stepfather ruin himself. Chloe's heart softened one last time. She knelt by the bed, making a final plea. She begged her mother to pack up and leave that monster, promising she would take care of her now. But at the word monster, her mother shrieked, defending the husband who provided for them. Looking at her weeping mother, Chloe's heart sank into an empty void. She stared blankly and asked the question, "You said you knew everything in the letter. What exactly do you know?" Her mother wept, saying she knew Ava had been cruel. That Ava had slapped Chloe the day before, and that was why she felt so guilty today. Hearing the response, Chloe let out a bitter laugh. She realized how foolish she had been, hoping her mother would finally see the actual truth. Under her mother's confused stare, Chloe tore away the final mask of her stepfather. "You just can't live without that piece of trash," Chloe said, "and you'll never believe the real truth. That night, he tried to assault your own daughter." The words hit like a lightning bolt, leaving the mother frozen in her bed, while Chloe's gaze turned permanently cold. The mother fell to her knees, begging Chloe to stay, but Chloe saw through her completely. She pulled her hand away with an icy stare. She stated she wanted nothing to do with their drama. She laughed bitterly at her own life, realizing she was never a daughter, just a financial tool. But her mother remained on the floor, using her own life to guilt-tripping Chloe, screaming about the hardships they faced in the past, vowing to stay on her knees until Chloe got the money. Looking at her impossible mother, Chloe snapped. "I'll ask Silas for the money," she said coldly. "But after this, we are completely finished." The mother tried to reach out in shock, but Chloe didn't give her another look. She turned and walked out of the room forever. Meanwhile, back at the estate, the doctor was giving Silas a checkup. He let out a sigh of relief when he finished. "Your system is clearing out well," the doctor said. "The poison from that night is almost gone." After the staff left, Silas approached Chloe. He noticed she looked completely distracted. He took the water glass from her shaking hands. His gaze turned incredibly sharp and intense. "Look at me," he commanded softly. "What are you hiding from me?" At the same time, the stepfather faced his downfall. Silas had blocked every single line of credit and gathered evidence of all his illegal crimes. The business was completely bankrupt. The panicked man ran home and dropped to his knees, crying falsely to his wife, playing the victim. He used their long history to manipulate her emotion. The foolish mother saw her husband weeping. Her mind went entirely blank with panic. She grabbed her phone and dialed Chloe's number frantically. Back in the bedroom, Chloe looked at Silas. She sat down weakly, admitting she needed a favor. She held the glass with trembling hands, tears falling, looking at the husband who cherished her. "Silas, can you help my stepfather?" she whispered.